Are you ready? I know. Are you ready? Okay. We're going to call the Star City Council meeting to order. It's Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 at 7 p.m. here at the Star City Council chambers. Can you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. We're going to have Pastor David Axe with the Calvary Chapel Star. Come give her an invocation for tonight.
Thank you very much. It's a joyful honor to be with you. Would you bow your heads in prayer with me? Heavenly Father, we come before you so wonderfully thankful. God, that is being made in your image. As your creator, we get to be creative, and yet the responsibility of stewardship, and Lord, much to be talked about, discerned, decided, and Lord, as so much is expressed this evening, we ask for your will to be done. And that at the end of it all, Lord, we know your word says a house divided against itself cannot stand. And so the wonderful unity that Stars enjoyed for so long, Lord, would you preserve it and keep it? In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call.
Hershey.
Here.
Wheelock.
Here.
Salmonson. Here. Nielsen.
Present. All right, we're going to move on to presentations tonight. We got Police Chief Zach Essing is going to introduce a couple of his staff.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. I'm Chief Zach Hessing, Star Police Department. I know we got a packed house tonight, so I'll make this fairly quick. I want to just take this opportunity to introduce the two newest employees for the Star Police Department. And so I'll have, well, who should we do first? Let's have Phil Sardinia come on up, stand next to me here. So for the first time ever, the Star Police Department started a volunteer program. And this has been quite the process of getting this started. There's a lot of things that go into a volunteer program. That they go through the same background check that I go through to be a deputy for Star Police Department. So poor Phil had to go through that same background check, and obviously he passed it because he's here. So, but we appreciate him going through that and being out here. He actually has quite a bit of experience being a volunteer from where he came from. So it's kind of good to have Phil on board as the first one. He kind of helped us create the program. We envisioned maybe 6 to 8 more volunteers with him coming out here, and really just an extra set of eyes and ears at our local parks and helping us out on knowing what to do with different issues that arise. So, and the city events. City of Star has a lot of city events, and so we can use him for that too. So real quick, I just kind of want to read his bio here, and if you have any questions, I'll take any questions on it. So, Phil Sardinia, Stars PD's first volunteer. Phil was born in Oakland, California. He attended a Catholic school from kindergarten to the 12th grade. After graduation, he went to work for Montgomery Ward and was employed there for approximately 15 years. He met and married his wife during this time. They have now been married for over 42 years. Phil and his wife moved to Livermore, California to start their family. They have 2 daughters and 2 grandsons. When Montgomery Ward closed, he went into construction and worked in this industry for 34 years until retiring in July as a senior superintendent. Phil enjoyed playing organized softball and continued to do so well into his 50s. He was an avid fisherman before moving to Idaho. I noticed that, Idaho has good fishing too, so you can continue fishing if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even at Freedom Park, we'll take your pole with you.
Yeah.
Mayor yells at me.
Phil had a long history of being a volunteer and had volunteered for the Livermore Police Department for 13 years. Phil was lead on many of the events in Livermore. He served as a president for 5 years and was voted Volunteer of the Year. He was the first volunteer to receive a letter of recommendation from the Chief of Police when he retired. So I just want to welcome Phil to the Star Police Department, and I'm grateful for him being a volunteer for us.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. And he's not lying about me yelling at him, because I didn't realize I saw a golf cart going out in Freedom Park. I'm like, who in the world is driving a golf cart out in Freedom Park? And it was him out there patrolling already. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
And that golf cart will be striped here within the next week.
Stripe soon. It says Star Police on there.
Oh, thank you, Phil. Yep. All right, we'll move on to Deputy Sean Huddleston. Come on up, stand next to me up here. So just for reference, this is not a new position for the city of Star, so it's not a new Star deputy position. This is one that's being backfilled from Elijah McCullough, who worked out here for about 6 months. He rotated back out to South County. He wanted to work on a South County team and kind of he's brand new to Ada County, so want to get kind of that feel. So I talked to Deputy Huddleston when we knew that was going to happen, and he was very excited that a Star position is coming open here. So I'll take just a moment to read his bio and any questions that you may have. Deputy Sean Huddleston graduated in 2015 with his bachelor's degree from the University of Kansas. While attending the University of Kansas, he was a student athlete and played on the football team. After graduating college, he worked as a construction project manager, specializing in restoration services in the Bay Area of North California. In 2019, he began his career in law enforcement with the Orange County Sheriff's Department. He spent 2 years working in the jails, 2 years of patrol in the city of Mission Viejo, and approximately 2 years as a recruit tactical officer at the academy. In the fall of 2024, Deputy Huddleston and his wife decided to relocate their family to Idaho, seeking a community that better aligned with their family values. In October, he began the lateral training program with the Ada County Sheriff's Office and was fortunate enough to be assigned to the city of Star following the completion of his PTO process. Outside of work, he enjoys spending time with his family and exploring Idaho's outdoors. John and his wife have a 1.5-year-old daughter and are expecting their second daughter in May. They have recently purchased a home in Star and are excited to get to know the community and contribute to keeping their citizens safe. I want to say thank you for Deputy Huddleston and being interested in Star and coming here, and welcome to the Star family.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. You want to say anything?
Do you want him to say
You
anything?
can, put him on the spot.
Deputy Huddleston, I know that you love to public speak. Would you like to say anything?
Mayor, city council members, citizens of Star. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve you guys. I hope to bring my experience from California, hopefully not everything from California, because trust me, it's a lot better here. So I'm sure most of you know that, but if you guys have any issues, you guys see us out and about, feel free to come up, talk to us. We love interacting with you guys. You know, you guys see more than we do probably, so come up to us and we'd be happy to help. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, City Council, is there any questions for me?
Any questions of Chief?
All right.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on to item 5, the consent agenda.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman,
I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of 5A, approval of claims, 5B, approval of minutes for March 4th, 2025, 5C, Terramore subdivision, findings of fact, conclusion of law, and 5D, LifeSpring Church rezone, finding of fact, conclusions of law.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen.
maybe before we get to a second, a couple of items I'd like to just bring up. On the claims, there are a couple of line items that I'd like us to look into.
Okay.
I don't think nothing that precludes us from approving these tonight, but specifically the purchases of Microsoft licensing that was done directly from the Microsoft Store, non-governmental licenses, and curious to understand why we are not buying those under the state contract so that we make sure that we get government licenses and at a discount.
So we'll have to ask Shane about that.
Yep, that's fine. And then on the item 5D, the LifeSpring Church, findings of fact and conclusions of law. The development agreement, I don't feel it captures the context of the council's approval. I've spoken with Sean about it and talked about a way that we can make sure that that is captured. Specifically, the council, or the motion that was made was to approve some conditional uses on that property that normally would be commercial uses, but approving them only for uses that are specifically related to the operation of the church and church activities, fellowshipping, things like that. So Sean and I have talked about that. I'm going to provide him with some language. Again, I don't think that precludes us from doing that tonight, as long as the rest of the council agrees that that was the intent of our motion a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and then, right, and then it's coming back with the oh, we don't do an ordinance on that one, do we? Well, we do an ordinance. So with the ordinance and development agreement, the language will be in there.
Right.
Yep. Any concerns from council?
And if no concern, and
Yeah,
if you
no.
would amend your motion, I would second that.
All right, I will amend my motion with the changes for Life Spring Church and the conditions to include the changes to reflect more of the, well.
To reflect our original motion,
Yeah, thank you.
and I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Aye.
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 All right, that motion carries. Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to item 6. Hey, which I think everybody's here for. The public hearing for State Main Street Multiple Use Development Conditional Use Permit. I'm gonna read the rules of the public hearing tonight. I did advise everybody before we started this tonight that you must sign up on the sheets back there if you want to speak at the public hearing. You can, if you haven't signed up, you want to do it now, go ahead and do that. And that way we are covered. I will open the public hearing. I'm going to ask the council if there's any ex parte. Need a different microphone. This one keeps dying on me. Thank you. All right, is that better?
Worse, they can hear you.
All right, can hear me now. And then I'll ask that the staff will present the application. The applicant has up to 20 minutes to present their project. The council can then ask the applicants questions and staff questions during that time. Then there'll be public testimony, 3 minutes per person. Those for the project will speak, those against the project will speak, and those who are neutral are going to speak. Council may ask the individual speaking follow-up questions, does not count towards their 3 minutes. The applicant will have a 10-minute rebuttal time. Council can then ask the applicant and staff additional questions. I will then close the public hearing and the council will begin deliberating. Either a motion is going to be made to approve, approval conditions, deny, or table the application to a date certain in the future. So thank you all for coming. This is part of the public involvement, and it's fantastic and helps shaping our city in the future. As this is a public hearing, there's going to be no cheering, clapping, jeering, or speaking out during the hearing. Only the person at the podium gets the floor. If someone does speak out in one of those manners, they're going to be asked to leave by chief or escorted out of the hearing. I hope we never get to that point because we're pretty civil here in the city of Star, which is great. So thank you everybody for coming out here to participate. It is 7:13, and I'm going to open the public hearing and ask the council if they have any ex parte contact or communication regarding this project.
No.
None.
Did you have a no?
None.
All right, hearing none. I'm going to turn this over to the staff, but just real quick, Ryan, is this working up here? Where's Ryan? That is working. So the timer's up here on your guys' right, up by the big TV. So go ahead, Sean. I'm going to turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and council, you have before you a public hearing for the State and Main Street multiple use building, conditional use permit 24-07. Applicant is requesting a conditional use permit approval to construct a multi-use building. Project is located on the north side of West State Street between North Poplar Street and North Main Street. Property consists of multiple lots on 0.95 acres. Existing zoning on the property is Central Business District, CBD. The uses proposed include commercial space on the ground level and 30 residential units on the second and third floors. A 55-foot height for the building with a rooftop residential amenity is also included. The application has been reviewed for compliance with the submittal requirements, including agency transmittals, legal noticing, site posting. All meet the Unified Development Code requirements. Application has also been reviewed for compliance with the Unified Development Code and the City Comprehensive Plan. You do have 3 late exhibits before you this evening. They are all from neighboring property owners. I also emailed those to you yesterday and today when I received them. Items for consideration this evening include a parking waiver for 10 commercial spaces and a height exception to 55 feet for the structure. Some development and zoning highlights include the following. The owner has removed the blighted trailer park that was located on the corner of State Street and Main Street. The proposed mixture of commercial uses with residential on the upper floors meet the purpose statement of the Central Business District and the Central Business District standards within the Unified Development Code, the Comprehensive Plan Goals 8.2.3 and Policy 8.5.5. There's a public plaza has been provided on the corner of Poplar and State Street. A 55-foot height proposal is allowed in the Central Business District and may be approved by the council through a part of the conditional use permit process. Sorry. The 50% reduction in parking may also be approved by the council. Adjacent on-street parking may also be included in the minimum parking requirements. Council may also require, in lieu of payments, per space, which is $6,000 per space, for portions of the reduced parking. Included in this, there are 6 additional on-street parking spaces on Main Street and First. And the Star Mercantile has entered into an agreement with the city to include 23 spaces and a public parking lot on the corner of Main Street and First. Unified Development Code requires commercial buildings to locate immediately adjacent to State Street with parking located to the rear and utilization of existing alleyways. The application meets all setback requirements with a minimum of 15 feet to adjacent residential uses. The 2011 Downtown Revitalization Plan recognizes the need for off-street parking areas, and cross-sections and streetscape configurations are envisioned the improvement of pedestrian safety and creation of an attractive and distinct sense of arrival within the downtown. Based on the review of the comprehensive plan, the Unified Development Code, and the approved Downtown Revitalization Plan, staff finds that the application as submitted meets the intent of the comprehensive plan and the requirements of the UDC and downtown plan, and recommends approval of the conditional use permit application.
All right, any questions of staff at this time before we turn it over to the applicant? One more thing I forgot to tell everybody, when you come up here, make sure you state your name and your address also for the record, please, okay?
Mr. Mayor, real fast, I forgot to go through the slides. So again, for the location of the property, as you can see on the vicinity map there, on the north side of State Street between Poplar and Main Street. Current downtown STAR zoning districts are highlighted in this slide. The residential R4, and then the Central Business District.
Okay.
In addition, I've provided a exhibit showing that additional downtown parking, including the 23 space public parking in the northeast corner of the Star Mercantile parking lot, and the 6 on-street parking spaces on Main and First Street.
Okay.
And again, and the applicant will go through these in more detail. I'm just going to show you, these are the submitted site plans showing the ground floors and the first and second and third floors with the rooftop amenity, and then the elevations that were presented by the applicant. And then staff has provided an aerial showing looking north from South State Street onto the site. That is all.
All right, thank you. All right, the applicant. Come up, please state your name and address for the record. And you'll have 20 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Walter Lindgren with Lindgren Labrie Architecture at 247 North Eagle Road in Eagle, Idaho. So I think we do have our slideshow set up. So I just want to present our project to you. I think Sean did a great job in presenting kind of the general overview of our project. I just want to kind of get into some nuance and maybe address some of the conditions and possibly concerns the public may have, and also what the council may want to address. So okay. So we all know the property. It's the overall site that is bookended by State Highway 44, State Street to the south, Poplar and Main to the west and east respectively, and then also the alleyway to the north, and we're State and Main. Just want to kind of give a quick overview of our approach to the project. Kind of view this as a very a quintessential project for the city of Star, and want to talk a little bit about placemaking and some of the things we're trying to accomplish with this project. And I'll just spend some brief moments on this. But what we're trying to do is create a quality space, quality sense of space with this project as it relates to Star. Right now, there is no definitive downtown. There's no real center, town centers to speak of. And we have a lot of development in Star that's happening, which is great. What this development is trying to do is trying to become, I guess you would say, the catalyst to what might be a core area that would be a place for people to gather, people to walk, entertain, converse, have a drink, whatever it may be. And so that is the goal of this project, and I'll get into a little more detail about what that really means. Again, placemaking is often characterized by the mass density and scale of the project itself, the human scale, the walkability, pedestrian-oriented uses, bikeability. When these form characteristics are achieved, you get safety, connectivity. It's a welcoming, it allows authentic experiences, accessibility, it's a comfortable environment, sociable, and then promotes also and facilitates a civic engagement. And so, again, this is not maybe just, I guess, a standard commercial development, if you will. We kind of feel like this is establishing a precedence to future development in the CBD district, which I think is a very positive one. The City of Star's downtown revitalization plan, I think Sean had alluded to this earlier. We did a little bit of just digging into that and what did it mean. The following information was some of the information that was ascertained from that group that met. One of the things, some of the things that they were looking for in the CBD district, bike and pedestrian routes, public plazas, attractive storefronts, landscaping, and mixed-use new development that provides business and residential spaces, something that really just doesn't exist in Star right now. And again, I come back to the identity of the city and something that creates, again, a catalyst to future development that will further heighten and create more meeting spaces and other business and residential opportunities. So to the project, we'll just dive right in. I think Sean alluded to this. The upper plan is the ground level plan, just to give everybody oriented. West State Street to the south, north is up. So you have West Main Street to the right and Poplar Street to the left, and then the alleyway that separates the next block to the north. So what you're seeing there on the ground level in all green, I'm not sure what color that is, chartreuse, I think, is actually approximately 10,000 square feet of commercial space. Based on our parking rationale, excuse me, I'm going to check my notes here real quick. I believe we had allocated just under 4,500 square feet for restaurant use and just under 5,500 square feet for retail office use. And that's based on parking counts, as those parking ratios are different per use. And so I'm going to try this real quick. There you go. So really what we're trying to focus on in terms of restaurant use on the ground level is this corner here, as well as this corner here. And the reason being is they do provide, once the highway does, not the highway, but West State Street, 5, whatever lane, how many lanes it will be, 5-lane road. It's going to be a very busy road. And so what we're trying to do is create restaurant uses and providing outdoor seating opportunities that get tucked back, not on the road itself, but tucked back on more of these local roads, Main Street in this case, and then this plaza area. So just a little bit of focus. And then in this case, the residential use, lobby access would be off of Main Street. Getting into the program a little bit deeper, this is the second floor. Below that, we are proposing an overall of 30 residences, 28 single bedroom, and then two bedroom apartments. And then there will be amenities that will be also proposed in with this application. Again, this is a third floor that you see on the top frame, showing the unit layout, and then the roof plan on the bottom, which does indicate what we're proposing is a rooftop amenity for this. I believe that the intent is to open this up to the public where they can. I think there's some, potential challenges with just how we, control security with the residential unit, but the idea is to provide a wonderful rooftop amenity so that the portion in green is what would be enclosed. And then you can see the hatch pattern is the proposed outdoor patio area. These are just some, we have some other images, but just from an elevation standpoint, what you're seeing. So the top elevation is the east elevation that is as viewed from North Main Street. Basically, if you were standing at the Merck looking across the street from Main, you would see this elevation. This bottom one is the south elevation from West State Street. This is if you were across the street on State Highway 44 West 8. This is what you would see. And I'm happy to come back to any of these. And we just did some black and white massings of the west elevation as you would be viewed from Poplar Street to the west, looking east, and then also the north elevation as viewed from the alley. Just to give you kind of a sense of the general direction of the architecture, by no means is this, these design elements are finalized. It's just to give you a characterization of the scaling, also to indicate, the storefront presence, and then also how the rooftop would maybe be viewed from the ground level. So this is a view from the southeast at State Highway 44 and Main. This is the Main Street view looking basically to the southwest. So from the north portion of the Merck parking lot, again, you'll see the entry, more or less what would be the entry to the residential component. And then from the west side, this is a view from the southwest looking back at the plaza area. And again, this is something that's still subject to design. And I know the city has a design review process that we would be subject to. So more than anything, we just wanted to show kind of the intent or just the general spatial relationship between the building, the street, and then what's happening in between. Kind of see some opportunity for restaurant uses, outdoor patio space, what have you. So to get into the building height real quick, right now what we're proposing is plus or minus 55 feet to the top of the parapet. We believe this is a workable number for this number of floors. Really, this is a 3-story building that has a 4th level penthouse. I mean, the 4th level is really set back. And from many vantage points, especially when you're close to the building, you wouldn't even perceive that level of the building. The 3 stories we feel has a nice scale to it and also provides the program that is necessary to make this project even, a developable property. There needs to be enough critical mass for these developments to happen, having been involved in enough of them, from the number of retail square footage as well as the number of residential units. This is also to show the storefront, and the height is often viewed as maybe a negativity, and I would just argue that there's something very redeeming about height when it comes to buildings. And just this quote, I found this quote of David Baker, who does a lot of research on ground level storefronts. Why can't new buildings be as nice as old buildings? It's a great question. And the reason is, oftentimes, it's because of the ceiling heights, for one. A lot of times what happens is we shortchange the ground level storefronts, even the residential components up above. But I'm really focused on the storefront levels down below to create a more traditional, really welcoming storefront component. he would talk about having more storefronts and ground level floors upwards of 20 feet. We're proposing 15. We would love to go even higher, but you can see some of these examples. I mean, some of these storefronts get upwards of 14, 15 feet just with the glass itself. And they're wonderful opportunities, both inside and out, the natural light, the transparency, the connectivity of the uses happening inside to what's happening inside is so critical. And we feel like that's a big part of this component when it comes to the height of the building. So feel very passionate about that as far as it is related to the connectivity and pedestrian scale of the city. The proposed parking solution, I think Sean had mentioned this briefly in his presentation. This is just a breakdown of the general uses. As you can see, we are providing 70 stalls, including off-street parking, and we'll get into that a little bit. But right now, what we have is proposed 70 stalls. By code, there are 80 stalls. Just to be full clarity that this is also taking into account the 50% reduction that the council has in front of them for that reduction of parking in front of them, which is something we feel like makes a lot of sense in this application. This is a prime example where that application of reduction makes a lot of sense. You have a general suburban application of, let's say, a commercial office or retail that might be 4 stalls per 1,000 square feet. In the downtown area, trip generation is so fast and turnover is so fast. Not to mention just the scalability and also the usability of the downtown core. What we're trying to avoid is big seas of parking. And so it's a balancing act, really, is what we're trying to accomplish here. And so I think this is an interesting graphic, which shows, the problems with the conventional approach. So, for example, the one on the top shows more just the building coming up and meeting the front streetscape, a little bit more friendly and a little bit more pedestrian user-friendly as opposed to the one below it, which meets, again, a criteria of whatever the stalls per square foot. And, there's a solution in between, and that's basically what we're trying to focus on in this application. And again, the quote below, it says, in addition, greater parking requirements conflict with the city's goals that promote mixed use, dense and walkable areas in the urban core, because the bottom one does not do that. The top one does it more. And can we find a solution that basically satisfies both creatively? That's our goal in this application. As well as the parking reduction in the CBD district. One of the other things that with these, we have 3 primary uses. We have a residential, we have a restaurant, and then retail/office, if you will. And we view these uses as having very different peak usage timeframes, meaning, residential parking usage is lower during working hours, as folks that live there would be maybe traveling to their jobs elsewhere, for example. So their car is now gone. Often retail parking show a level of usage corresponding to peak commuting hours, excuse me. And then restaurant parking use peaks during the evening hours when other commercial uses have shut down. We see this all the time where we have restaurant uses combined with commercial office space. One classic example is the Côte Del Mar restaurant in Eagle, which is coupled with many commercial office buildings. And once those folks, unless they're going to go and enjoy a meal over at Côte Del Mar, they've left at 5, and the group comes in and replaces them with that parking. So we kind of view that as something to consider in the downtown area that you might not otherwise have in a suburban development, for example. And so, the reality is that leaves us with a deficit of 10 stalls. And so, given that this is the first development of this nature, we're kind of looking for the city for some guidance. We feel like this project is a very positive catalyst to this area and to create this core area that I believe that the city has visioned. I mean, as I've read, so we understand that that's the challenge. On the flip side, there aren't high number of businesses down in this area as it is today. So this is the first one out of the chute, and we certainly understand we're going to take the hits on this stuff, but I think it's worth doing, and I feel like this project warrants that attention. And then also the code provides an in lieu parking payment option for such a situation. We understand that this is an option that council can look at and entertain. I can just say, having gone through this process with other developments similar to this, it becomes a challenge to the developer to take on these costs. These aren't simple. I mean, people always think that, developers, oh yeah, they're making all this money, and that's great. I understand that. But these are very challenging projects, and they're ones that are approached with a very passion. There needs to be some sort of return on their side, but also I feel the folks that we're working with, Star Property Holdings, is looking at doing something very special here, and there's going to be a cost associated with that, as was a cost associated with the purchase of the property. So, and I think moving forward, as property values grow, we're going to see that a little bit more, where those property values are going to be a challenge and add to that cost of development. Just, for what it's worth, this is just yet another, maybe a solution, and talking about, some other solutions versus self-parking for a particular development. So what we're trying to do is promote maybe a little bit more of a public parking approach to it. Sean mentioned parking over at the Mercantile, and I think the 23 stalls, it's a step in the right direction. It sounds great. And again, considering today that there's not a lot of activity in this area, I think that goes a long way, and I think can serve other businesses as they do come online. But I think having more of a more comprehensive approach to parking in downtown versus having to basically identify that and allocate that per development. It's not exactly, from an urban standing, we start to get more parking and hard surfaces than we do actual core area that can be used for entertaining. And again, we talked about meeting engagement, that sort of thing. I just want to keep track of my time here. Yeah, and again, if this is embraced fully, this approach offers various benefits. The idea that it promotes walking, which is good for street-facing businesses, and the park once and walk results is done all over. There's plenty of case studies. I'm not going to bore you with all those, and don't have the time to necessarily, but there is a lot of case studies about how downtowns have gotten away from really basically putting that parking component onto the developer and basically creating more of a cohesive parking plan that is essentially benefits the city. It's not just about this isn't about the developer. It's about the future of this area for Star. If it wants to basically develop a core urban area, without that, it just becomes more parking than it does built environment and or plaza environment for that matter. Just to wrap up, and I got about 2 minutes. Excuse me. My understanding is that there was a comment back from, I don't know if it was the resident, staff had mentioned about these, we'll kind of highlight this, it's just maybe a side note, but we've got 2 units per floor. This is the second floor that's shown, and we have basically 2 units on each floor. So there's 4 units in total that do have balconies. There was discussion about, I don't know if it was this neighbor or other neighbors, that had concern of the proximity of that to visually and otherwise. We're comfortable if those decks are not part of the proposal. They can be allocated, and then we could provide an offset. We do have an amenity on the rooftop as it's planned now. Whether that's the appropriate allocation for the offset, we'd love to work with staff in the city on that. We want to understand it. We do have, just to also understand, we do have overhead power lines that do run east-west on the north side of the alley. We have to be a certain proximity from those. That's required by Idaho Power. And so in fairness, I think the decks were probably getting pretty close to that. I don't think we were breaching that proximity, but so I think if we'd be open to that discussion with staff in the city and if it made sense. So with that, I will stand for questions. Appreciate your time and your attention to my presentation. Thank you.
we have gremlins in our closet because they were all plugged in. We're not sure what's going on there, but it's time for us to ask the applicant questions. We need to get all the questions out on the table now so the public can hear them because we don't want to be asking new questions when we come back to talk to him after the when he comes back for his rebuttal. But I do have a couple questions if you guys are all right with me starting on that.
Yep, fine.
So I know you're not, you don't want to do the parking in lieu of fees. If this were to get approved, I'm going to highly suggest that we do the parking in lieu of fees, only because we don't let anybody out of that equation anywhere,
Mhm.
right? Getting a parking spots downtown isn't free for the city of Star.
Mhm.
The city has to pay for that. So just so you're aware, if this does go forward, I'm going to be pushing that we do get the $60,000 in parking in lieu of fees for those things, right? Because we have to cover that as a city in the long term. The other thing is we also have mitigation fees, and I didn't know if that was discussed in here, but we have mitigation for police and fire. So on the residential component of that, we would build into our conditional or in our development agreement. We're doing a development agreement on this, on our development agreement about those mitigation fees for police and fire. It helps us pay for police and fire as we add residents in our area. And then on your balcony, I like the idea of removing the balconies on that side. So it's not a privacy issue for those citizens. But I like to see you block it out. So in the future, if sometime that, you know what I mean, I think you could design it to where at some point they can knock it out and put a balcony in at some point, right? Most likely. You're the architect.
It's still
But,
pretty
Mr. Mayor,
close to that power line.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
there's-
are you allowed to put the balcony in there or does that have to come out no matter what because of the power line?
No, I mean, I feel like we've cleared it. Things are still 30,000 feet, to be honest with you. I mean,
Okay.
our view of this, some of the floor plan. So I would just say that, yeah, I don't have any, I don't think the applicant has any issue with agreeing to any of that. I just have a hard time believing that somebody be in the middle of the night coming and sneak in some balcony, because it's got to go through its process, of
No,
course.
no, I
Yeah.
get that. But
You know what I mean?
I
So-
was thinking that in the future, if the property's in the north, it could be 20 years
Yeah.
down the road or whatever. Let's say the property's in the north, developing something else, that those things could be added at a later date as an amenity for the citizens that are there. So if you could block that out in such a way, build in such a way, it's not structurally challenging later, I guess is my point.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, so yeah, I would suggest that it's basically a flush wall, so it doesn't have this opportunity. We can make it very problematic
Okay.
in the construction for sure, to your point.
All right. Council, got questions?
Mayor,
Councilman Nielsen.
so I just want to make sure, I think the mayor was asking in the future, the balcony could be put in, not that somebody would do it in the middle of the night.
Right.
Okay. My question around that balcony, will there be windows there anyway?
The proposal is to have windows there. Yeah,
Right. So and by removing the balcony, how does that address any privacy concern?
well, Member Nielsen, Mr. Mayor, Member Nielsen, I think there's levels of privacy. So the fact is that it's just one more level that we're pulling back on. You know, I think that elevation, I think for many reasons, the weight of having glazing on that site, it bodes well for the scale of the building too. I mean, I guess I would, for it to be a solid, if the point would, for it to be a solid, you know, no windows at all, for just the privacy's sake. I feel like the pro of having the window in there outweigh the cons. And I feel like that from a privacy standpoint, as a window, I think you just interact with that window differently than you would, let's say, a deck, the person that's occupying the space, for example. So nobody's outside just hanging out and then, you know, looking down.
Right.
They're going about their business in their apartment, if you will. So
No,
Make
that
that-
makes
that
sense.
point.
I think in my experience looking at these balconies, they usually have boxes and bicycles more so than people. But
can I address that real quickly? I think one of the things we do, if you'll see the balconies, we do kind of have a little bit more capacity to those balconies. And whether or not this is the final design, our goal is to understand that that's always an issue. That there's stuff that collects out there, and we want to
Right.
hide that and not, I guess, highlight, if you will. So very important to us.
would the, I don't know if there's covenants that would, I suppose there'd be covenants or rules for residents. Would you be open to having rules against using that as storage areas?
So, Mr. Mayor, Member Nelson, I don't think that's an issue at all. Yeah, I don't think there's any issue with having a covenant that would, an item that would address that. I think it's a great point. It's something that these types of projects always deal with. And I agree. It does nobody any good when you have a bunch of stuff out on the dock. It's not sightly.
Right.
I would agree.
That's all the questions I have for now, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I do have, sorry, Councilman Hershey, I do have one more question though I forgot to ask. Can you go back to your parking slide that talked about the numbers?
Sure. Yes.
For me real quick?
If I can. Mr. Mayor, are you talking about the calculation or?
Yeah, the calculations that you showed how many parking spots you had for everybody.
I believe this is what you're talking about.
Yeah, so, okay, so I read it wrong when I first read it. Oh, you have 80 total site. Oh, no.
It's also
You're asking
correct.
for 70 total site, parking, right?
Correct. Mr. Mayor, there are 70 stalls on the site in addition, well, including, I believe there's eight stalls that we have on Poplar and Main Street respectively. So there's a total of 70 stalls being provided and 80 under the calculation that's being required.
Okay, so I need help with this because I only counted 62. I'm sorry, 62. When I look at this report here that was with ACHD right here,
Sure.
when I look at everything that you listed on here, I can only see 62 sites, stalls total on this whole thing. And this doesn't include any of the stuff at the Merck, so I just want to verify.
No, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. So there are, boy, I have to go from memory and my eyesight is horrible. So there are also 8 stalls there's 2 stalls along Poplar and 6 along Main. Were those included as part of your calculation?
Yeah, I had those in there too, but
Okay.
let me do my math. again.
Sure. No, that's fine.
So these are the 6 you're referring to on Main?
Councilmember Nelson, that's correct.
Okay, yep, that was a math error on my part, but I just want to verify that first on there. Okay,
No problem.
thank you. All right, go ahead, Councilman Hershey. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, could you go to where it best shows the height of the buildings and the layout like it's showing, but I want to see that top floor. Where the fourth, the clubhouse, whatever we call that? Penthouse.
Member Hershey, would this be, or do you want floor plan or?
Yeah, I just want to see where it is in relation to the properties in the south or north side.
Sure.
I just had a question there.
Absolutely. Well, and real quick, before I go to the floor plan, you can see the perimeter outline. So this is both the east along Main and then south along Highway 44. Just real quick, the taller volume is the west as viewed from Poplar Street and then the north elevation as viewed from the alleyway. So
Yeah, that's right there. That's fine. That amenity cannot be, what am I trying to say? They can't go to the north side. It's walled. I know it's
Remember-
green here and right there, but is that just your drawing or is there actually a physical barrier that stops them from going there?
correct. Councilmember Hershey, yes, that's correct. So the green you see there is actually it's an enclosed space. And then the hatched portion that you can see, hopefully, is the outdoor patio. To the north, as you go back towards the alley, is just general roof space with, rooftop equipment that's screened from the parapet.
So there's a building, parking lot and all that alley until you get,
Correct. So yeah, so if you for example, if you see, so there's the amenity portion that actually goes up, and then we have some trellis work that kind of projects off, and then to the north here, this is just roof shape. So this is just a 3-story building right here, and then if you go, basically the extent of what I do is just the extent of what I was just showing you, it's here. So if you take a kind of a shot of what that second floor looks like at the alleyway, that's the extent on the rooftop that you see. It is just rooftop with mechanical units.
so mostly facing State Street. Or-
Even then, I mean, it's pretty, it's off quite a way. I'd say if anything, it's closest to Main Street, but
Main Street, yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's,
okay.
but it's got some relief and, you know, off those two.
All right, and you also mentioned future street parking opportunities. Where would those be? Because I just can't find anywhere on that street where there's going to be future parking opportunities. It was in your slide that said future street parking opportunities may present. You were talking,
Sorry, Mr. Hershey. So,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to go back. I'm not sure. See, are you,
I think it's
would
one.
you mind repeating the question? I just want to make sure I can answer it correctly.
Did I say it right? I heard it right. You mentioned future street parking opportunities. Must be one slide ahead. Maybe I
hold on.
invented it. I don't know.
It's okay. No, let me make sure. I didn't want to.
Scroll through the whole thing myself. Was it on the parking slide? No, it was his. Oh, maybe it was Sean's presentation. But it was,
Oh, the,
is that what you were in reference to? Or is that what that is in reference to?
I,
I think my slide was separate from his
Yeah, his slide was
presentation
separate,
slide,
but
but
I
you want me
think-
to show you that real fast while you're talking about it?
I could have sworn I saw it in this. Really could. It's in the blues,
I'm happy to go through. I'm not sure if I
but now I don't.
still want to speak out of turn.
So this was the slide that I presented, Mr. Council Member, and I show the 6 parking spaces on the improved side of Main Street and First Street.
so there's a couple things though with that though. We're gonna have to remove number 4 and 5. Because you have requirements of parking from the distance of the corner, and then you have a fire hydrant right there where 4 is.
Those were looked at.
Huh?
Those were looked at. I looked
You
at.
you looked
yeah.
at that and we have the distance?
Yeah, I could have had a lot more if I would have forgot about the fire requirements.
All right, well, that's it then. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions right now? Councilwoman?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Chadwick. Okay, so a couple of questions. So I did notice in ACHD's response that they were recommending a 10-foot wide sidewalk along Highway 44. I know in our code, like we do state that we only require 8 feet, and so that's what you have included here tonight. I'm curious, being right next to the highway, and I would like to see that increased to 10-foot wide sidewalk. Is that a possibility?
So, Councilmember Simonson, we actually have, I think it's closer to 11 feet to the back of curb.
Oh, excuse me.
I don't know if it's hard to read, I apologize. And if you can see that, there's a dimension string, I believe, right there. Should be either 10 or 11. And we agree with you. I mean, that's,
Okay.
I think that's very important. It's going to be a busy street and, 8 would not be enough. I agree with that.
Yep,
So,
okay.
yeah.
And then my other one is regarding the parallel or
Mhm.
what is that? Like diagonal parking. So ACHD also suggested that we did not approve it, whatever, diagonal parking. They had a few reasons. Did you want to speak to that?
Can I speak to that?
Thank
Okay.
you.
I know ACHG is trying to dictate that. I think that is the way to go in our central business district, is to have the diagonal parking. They allow it already in the streets in Meridian, in Eagle, out in Cuna. There's no reason we can't have that kind of parking here in Sonoma. And so that's going to be an argument, I don't think from them, but from us with them to make sure that we can maximize the parking down in this area in the future.
Yeah, that was one of their reasons, was because there's no other diagonal parking in the area.
You got to start it somewhere.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay. All right, my other question, so regarding the uses, so because you have the residential, so that triggered the conditional use, and it seems like, we're focusing for the uses just on the residential component. So, do you have any specific, like uses that, I don't see any that you're asking for in here, but on your plan, like for parking, you do have, it's limited to basically like two eateries, and so are you open to limiting the parking or the type of usage as a percentage of, like maybe we only have two, what is that, like 25, is that 4,800 square feet that are food or drink, because those ones do have the higher parking need. And so would you be open to like kind of looking at that ratio, I guess, and limiting the commercial use?
So Councilmember Solomon, this is really a very, very pointed question because I'm dealing with another project in downtown Eagle with the same kind of challenges. And so right now, what we have proposed, almost kind of trying to, I don't say back into it, but to try to work with the parking calculation is where do we see the most viable spots for the restaurant uses? And right now we identify those two corners, basically. I think you've identified, the far west side and then the corner right at State and Main, and primarily because there's opportunities for outdoor seating and that sort of thing. So the calculations, I think we had less than, I didn't want to say it's 4,500 square feet. I don't want to speak out of turn, but
Yes, that's.
we had under 4,500 square feet, and primarily because that's divisible by 300, which is if council was to approve a 50% reduction, a restaurant use in the downtown core would be 1 per 300. And so it was just a number to hit, and talking with the applicant, they feel that they can make these numbers work. So basically what we're suggesting in this parking calculation is that we have, for a restaurant use, is we have the, anywhere from 4,500 square feet below. And then from office retail, which is a different calculation for parking, we're at the 5,500 mark. I guess what I would like to propose is if there's an opportunity, maybe to go on record or to provide some sort of avenue that if that were to change down the road, if we didn't have to come back in a full application, because, if this thing is successful and parking is addressed, I mean, all these things are, I'd hate to handcuff the developer to not have more, potential restaurant opportunities, but that's what we're proposing under this application.
So
If
would
that
you
makes-
be able to
okay,
make
sense.
that like conditional? So if it goes above the 4,500 square feet, then maybe that other restaurant or, then they would come to council for like conditional approval. So we're not limiting it completely, and it would give you the option to at least come back and present.
Exactly.
That idea.
Councilmember Thompson, the challenge is if a project like this is successful and there's other opportunities, although keep in mind, we also, to serve a certain, if it's a restaurant that is producing grease, let's say, or it's going to need a hood and needs other equipment that we have to really plan out like from day one. You can't add that stuff later. Now, if it's a deli, that's another story, right? I mean, the deli doesn't require all the equipment on the rooftop, but some of these things, you really can't come back later and try to figure it out. It's problematic. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So really, to try to work into the parking calculation and kind of more of a gut feel, we felt like the corner section that you see there that is identified, brew pub, whatever it might be, and then the far corner is more of a restaurant use. That's our take today. And again, the challenge with these things is you might become the victim of your own success, and then you're back in front of you trying to, hey, we got another restaurant use, and who knows?
Yeah.
But we understand that parking sensitive, and we want to make sure that we're trying to align with that the best we can.
All right, thank you. So the public plaza, can you like rough estimate about how big is that area?
Oh, boy. Well, maybe we talk about that a little bit, right? Right now, I don't know what the view is of the mayor and the council as far as we've got some really very mature trees along that road. We're showing them to be retained, whether or not that's viable. I think the applicant is just open to do whatever the city feels is best, So we show those trees still kind of in place. You can see the two large canopies, and then also there's a third on the far northwest corner of the property. Having said that, that plaza area, it's the kind of the way it worked out with the parking. Just to give a little backdrop, it's the parking we've tried to take advantage of the drive aisle of the alley. So we've taken advantage of that efficiency of people coming through the alley, and then being able to park right off the alley. And then the way the geometry worked, we had this leftover space. So if I were to look at it, I mean, I'm just spitballing. It's maybe about 30 by 90. So maybe 2,500, 2,700 feet, if I were to guess. And what that looks like, I think, is still to be determined. But I think, we're open if there's conditions or what that needs to be or wants to be. We're open to those.
Okay.
I think it's a neat opportunity, especially at this location, to provide some sort of collecting area for people to gather. And
Yeah, would you be open to like working with the city to kind of figure out maybe as part of like the public art or signage that we could include, like signage to Freedom Park and, because, yeah, so if we could just maybe have a little spot for that.
Councilmember Shelton, yes, I mean, absolutely. In fact, the corner, oops, wrong button. This corner piece was kind of, we were thinking, something on that corner to identify and kind of create some sort of, again, working with public artists, whatever that looks like. I think there's a real openness to create something that does partner with the city and has the city's kind of identity as part of that.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Mhm.
I'll let somebody else go. I got another.
Do you have some, or do you want me to go again? Trying to figure out how to address this, but I want to address the specific uses that are allowed, because what concerns me is if it gets approved and we don't actually address these, we run into a challenge with permitted uses. How can we, I mean, I got a list right here. Let me just kind of throw some out there where I don't.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate this conversation. Thank you.
Is this a
I appreciate you bringing this up.
Mr. Mayor, I did put in the staff report some suggestions
Well,
that
that's
if you
what
want,
I was
you want to
looking at.
address those. And again, those were not presented by the applicant as much. It was staff's starting point for the discussion.
Okay, so I'm gonna just tell you some of the stuff that I put down and let's talk about it.
Mhm.
Okay. Animal care facility is a conditional use, and I said no use, because that'd be a crazy facility to have amongst all those folks. It doesn't make sense, but let's say you sell this thing and it's in here as a conditional, someone else may try to force something down. That's why I want to talk about these.
Agreed.
Artist studio. You all right? Okay. Artist studio is permitted use. An arts, entertainment, recreation facility would be a no use. How would you?
Mr. Mayor, is that like a theater of some sort, or?
Yeah, it'd be like a theater, recreation, things like that. That's not a good use in there.
I would agree.
Automotive, mechanical, electrical repair and maintenance, no. Bakery, retail, or manufacturing, but bakery retail would be the permitted,
I think that,
right?
I would agree.
But a manufacturing would be no in that, right? So you leave from the chair with all the noise, you then turn off my light? I know, that's okay, I'm kidding. All right, and then a bar, tavern, lounge, drinking establishment would probably be a no, because that generates a lot of traffic in there. However, you could have, as far as a retail, that's different. This is just a standalone bar. That's how I read this, correct?
Mr. Mayor, can you clarify that? Because I think that's an important question to.
It's a bar, tavern, lounge, drinking establishment. It's just a drinking establishment.
No food, I guess, is
No food. Yeah.
okay.
But if you have food with it, you'd be good. I don't know where you're parking all your patrons down there if you're going to have a bunch of bar guys there. I see what happens right here. I mean, they overflow big time over here,
Mr. Mayor, so.
especially when they have micro midget night. Right? Whatever they call that over there, right? That's something we need to look at. We need to discuss that, right?
Mr. Mayor, so there's not to split hairs, but there's some instances, like we have a establishment in downtown Eagle that has a brewery, but then they also, they work with, they don't produce.
But we have
food.
a separate one for brewery.
Okay, oh, okay,
Yeah.
maybe that's,
I mean, this is, I'm just going down the list of what our code currently allows in CBD.
I
We
appreciate
need to
that.
talk about each one of these things, right? So keep that in mind. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Barbershop, salon, I think it's permitted. A bed and breakfast, really? I don't think that'll work in that, right? Brewery, distillery, brew pub, wine tasting, as permitted uses. A building material, garden equipment, supply center, you know. Childcare, this is an interesting one that we need to talk about, because we got 3 different levels of childcare, all currently with a conditional use. So we just need to discuss that. I'm not quite sure where to go with that. A church or a place of religious worship would be no, because, not because I don't love churches, but it's
I
just
understand.
because of the volume of traffic that those things generate.
Understood.
A civic, social, or fraternal or organization as a permitted use, that'd be like our American Legion group, things like that, right? That would have locations is what I would look at that. A conference convention center would be a no. Convenience store, obviously, would be a no. Drive-through establishment on this facility would be a no. Live work, multi-use, we already are doing this. It's already a part of this conditional use because you got the live upstairs and the work downstairs. The educational institutions, private and public, would be a no.
Mhm.
Right?
Agreed.
But we need to discuss that a little bit. What does that mean, truly? Think on, is it every level, preschool, you know, what does that look like? Because it kind of can, when we're talking about childcare centers, some of these childcare centers do education, so we got to verify that.
Mayor Chadwick,
Yes, sir.
could you just clarify? Because I'm looking in the staff report and you're saying that these are no, but the staff report shows them permitted.
Well,
Is this your opinion?
this is my opinion. This is why I want to discuss this, so we can all have a discussion. I just want to get it all open right now, so we can discuss this and the public has a chance to talk
Well,
about these things too.
Yeah, I agree. And we need to talk about it.
Right.
And should
You
we,
you guys are going to talk about it. I'm just telling you what I think. Right here. I'm almost done.
wait, we're going to need a list after.
No, you can have a list. Brian, you make a copy of this here in just a minute and you can give them the list. Events, entertainment, public or private should be a no. Farmers or Saturday market, either permitted or conditional use. I think that's, I mean, when you talk about the plaza and stuff like that, I think that's a good use there. Financial institution, permitted uses. I know everybody hates banks in this town for some reason, but banks are popular. We all have money somewhere. Gasoline, obviously, fueling stations would be a no. Government office, permitted. Healthcare and social services, we have to discuss that as a permitted. Hospital, obviously, a no. Hotel, motel is a no. Laboratory, depends on what it is. We need to discuss that. Laundromat, laundry and dry cleaning as conditionals. Library as conditional versus permitted. A medical clinic, we need to discuss that. It's currently a permitted use in the CBD, but what does that look like on a facility like this, right, for parking? This is a multi-use building, a museum, permitted use. A nursery, garden center, and farm supply, I would say.
Right here, pawn shop.
Pawn shop. Well, I haven't got down there yet.
Okay, well,
That's a-
on our list here.
Well, that's on your list, on what he put together, right there.
Okay.
Right? I'm just kind of going through everything that shows on here, in our code right now. See, nursery, no. Nursing or residential care facility, a no. An office, security facility, potential, conditional use. Obviously, parking lot, parking garage as a no versus conditional use. No on the public park. Well, we can't say that because, well, we can. I guess it depends on how we define that plaza, right, on that. We have to discuss that. The pawn shop, what'd you have on that, Sean, on the pawn? You had as permitted? Well, I think we need to do that as a conditional use because we want to see what that is.
I
right?
recommended prohibiting.
That's- Huh?
I recommended prohibiting it or making it a conditional use.
Okay. Personal professional services on here is a permitted, pharmacy permitted on here. Photographic studio, permitted. Portable classroom, obviously that doesn't apply, so we just need to make sure we say no on that instead of permitted. Professional offices permitted, public infrastructure, public utility, minor yard, no. A restaurant, you were saying, are we pre-approving this in here for 4,500 square feet, or we're going to come back for a conditional on it?
That's up to you. Remember, it goes
So we need to
through, it goes
discuss
through
that.
design review and
Based on the square footage you guys were talking about. Retirement home as a no, service building as, we have that as, permitted on here. We need to discuss what that is. What is a service building? In our code. I can't remember what it says. I'm trying to remember off my head. As much as it pains me, the shooting range, we have to say no on that one. I don't think that's the appropriate location for that. Shopping or commercial center, we got to figure that out. What does that mean? I mean, you have, I think on your drawing there, you had retail office and about 5,500 square feet of that, right? So
Correct.
what is that? I don't think it falls under that. Swimming pool, commercial public, no, that's permitted. Vehicle emission testing, that's gone away. Vehicle repairs, no. Anything with those vehicle washing stuff is no. Veterinarian office. We have that twice, don't we, on here? You have that on there as conditional? I think we limit that also, like Sean is talking about on there. Wholesale sales, we have it as conditional. What does that mean? Wholesale sales, do we allow wholesale sales? I mean, it depends on what that is down in those
I know.
commercial facilities. And obviously a no on a wireless communication facility. We're not going to turn this into a tower of towers.
But
Right.
Mr.
So-
Mr. Mayor, and again, staff went through and took out the majority
know.
of those uses and presented you with the ones that were more reasonable with staff's, suggestions. So
I just wanted to
yeah.
make sure that we talk about every piece, one of these things.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
So a couple things. I think really the approach in terms of not knowing who these tenants may or may not be, we just kind of highlighted them as retail/office, kind of a broad term because of the parking, what's triggered from the parking of that particular use. So also understand that any more intensive use that might come in, would be subject to a little bit more scrutiny, of course. I think having said that, one of the things you mentioned about the restaurant use is if it's possible, at the very least, what we would like to have as part of a condition of this, again, not to get ahead of ourselves, but as part of a condition here is that the restaurant use would not be a conditional use if it's kept under a certain square footage. And again, this is all kind of tied to the parking counts. So I think the reason I bring that up is because in real life, the real life challenges of leasing spaces like this with retail and restaurants, if they've got to go through conditional use, you're not going to get that tenant. And they may, but it's problematic because they'll have to wait another whatever the process, 3 months or 4 months to get through that process. So I guess part of this application, I guess what we're proposing is that restaurant use as under that 4,500 square feet we'd like for that to be as part of this. And then again, I say moving forward, challenges when the market changes and they have opportunities to lease to other folks and we just can't predict that. And I guess that's just what
I
it is.
get
It is
that.
just what it is.
So you have this list that staff put together, and you had this total list here with everything that's on there. You're good with what the staff is recommending on this whole
I
thing?
am, yeah. I believe so,
Okay.
yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman,
while I'm going over my questions, if you'll turn off the refrigerator.
are you good with that now? We good now?
There's a ton of refrigerated people out here that would love to not be refrigerated.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan, will you make a copy? I got it, Ryan, right here. The technology is awesome. I turned it down because it was so stinking hot up here. All the hot air in here made it go up to 75.
Pendulum swings a long ways in here. So-
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir. Councilman Wheelock.
if we could go to page 45 of the 78-page packet. That's the one. So if I understand this, we're looking at right here is that half of the restaurant we're talking about, 4,500 square feet, half, 2,000 square feet?
So Councilmember Wheelock, I don't know, it's been a long time since I've seen that, but so basically,
If you're looking for 4,500 square feet, 25 one side and 2,000 the other side, is that what?
more or less, that's correct.
All parking it?
That's ballpark,
Right?
yes.
So if I understand what I've looked at, we have 2 guest parking here. This is all apartments. These are all apartments.
Mhm.
And you have 6 spaces plus these 2 street spaces for that restaurant and its employees. How many,
I mean, yeah, the parking count,
the question I have.
yeah, no, we've laid out the parking count, so yes, I mean, that's accurate. We're able to park all the residential, which is, we didn't mess with that, right? So that's what it is as well.
So a 2,000 square foot restaurant and you're expecting the 8, no, just on this corner, I'm not even talking about the other side. But assuming they stay on that side of the building, you've got 6 spaces or 8 spaces for the 2,000 square foot restaurant
On site, that's
on
correct.
site.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay. I think that's too far for me. So I have a challenge with that. If as you spoke earlier of wanting to have higher ceilings in the retail, raise the ceilings, take floor 3 out, you gain a ton of parking. You get what you wanted in the retail height. We get what we need in parking, and everybody goes away hopefully happier.
Sure. So,
Because without that, I can't imagine how you don't negatively impact the surrounding neighborhoods. And I love the development. That's not what I'm saying,
sure.
but I think it's bigger than the neighborhood is comfortable and ready for as a first project, as you described it.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, I think just the short answer is from an economic standpoint, just having a second floor of residential, the project may not make sense. I don't have access to those specific numbers, but that's the goal, is to, at least, hit that critical mass where it makes sense. And so I fully appreciate what you're saying, and I know it's a challenge. The thing about this is this is, the core area of what can become your downtown. And so what we're trying not to do is have a bunch of parking and get a development to happen. Otherwise, it just may not. It's the reality of it.
And I was, as we prepared for this meeting,
Mhm.
suggested that there was a development like this in Eagle
Mhm.
to go and take a look at.
Mhm.
And I took the opportunity, drove by there and went all the way around the building. I'm assuming it's a similar situation or similar style of building, I guess. I think this one creates more parking in some places that I could see. But I couldn't see any way that would, and it has nobody and it's downstairs yet that I'm aware of. It
No,
looked like
you don't.
looked like it was wide open still.
That's correct.
But for me, I don't see anywhere that people can park within a football field in any direction and not be offending a neighbor somewhere. It's tough to see that much density. I think you provided more than that. Or in my opinion, a better design with more options if it were, I guess, one level less, to be right honest. And I get that the numbers have to work out. I'm not against anybody making money, but it's also got to make sense for the local style, in my opinion. And when you said it makes sense for, I was curious who it makes sense for more, developer, city, or neighbors? Because we have a responsibility for all three, and I'm trying to figure out where that makes the most sense.
For sure. Mr. Member Willock, if I can address that specific question. And so it's not just one or the other. I would say, if the developer can find a project that pencils and not lose money, yeah, that's a win, right? For sure. So if the project's successful and all of a sudden what's created is the catalyst for, future development and, a place to go entertain and engage and, go spend time with friends and family at a restaurant or whatever, and create a sense of place. I mean, right now, Garden City struggles with that. Excuse me, I apologize. Star struggles with that. And
I disagree with that statement, that Star struggles with that. I've been here 30 years.
okay. What I would argue is, or maybe ask is, where is the city center? And right now there is not a city center that exists. And so what we're trying to do is create a center, at least, the start of one, let's say. And I think that's an opportunity for the city to also, all of a sudden to create something that's unique that really doesn't exist right now, I would argue. And then third, as far as the neighbors go, I get the fact that, it's a large structure that, it's backing up to the neighbors to the north. The reality is that alleyway, you can see even just by this plan, the mass, the general mass is really, by design, is heightened towards the corner of Main and State. It's trying to be sensitive to those residents as best possible. I grant you this far corner in the northeast does come up close to it. Now, having said that, once West State Street, Highway 44 does kick in.
It's as wide as it's going to be right now.
Yeah, but in terms of
It's not
the
getting
volume,
any wider.
just in terms of the volume of, I think is, if nothing else, this provides maybe a necessary buffer to that. And then the other question is, if not this type of project, what goes in there? Is it something that has a back of house that backs up to the alleyway and creates other challenges to those property owners? I think this is one that you have a potential for 360-degree architecture that basically is you've got potential of tenants. I've been asked who the tenants that would be going in here. The proposed plan is for one-bedroom apartments, and so really what we're proposing is something that might be for single career-oriented people. Maybe somebody's traveling. Who knows? There's a lot of nurses and medical professionals that travel. I hear it all the time in our industry that's a market that's really pretty hot right now. And this isn't this is a unique group of people that would be tenants at this building. So I guess what I always try to wonder about is, if not this, and what else could it be? And is that?
If you're asking me, what else would it be?
Yeah.
I would suggest one level down, and it's a beautiful building.
Okay.
So
Fair enough. No,
that's my opinion.
it's good. I got
You're
it.
asking me, that's what I would think.
Fair enough.
And it solves the parking. It's beautiful still and creates the core that you're looking for.
Right.
Raise the building another 4 feet so you have your detail that you wanted height in anyway. That would be my suggestion.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any further questions right now of the applicant?
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
just on that last point about the height of that lower level,
Mhm.
you mentioned in your presentation that, you would like to, and you've cited some resources that say that building at a tall height is desirable. What height is envisioned in this application right now? What are you looking for?
So great. Councilmember Nielsen. So what we do have right now is, oops, I don't know if this is still active. Oops. maybe not, is it's called out as 15 foot, basically from the floor plate. It's good. Yeah, right there. There you go. And maybe go one more, one more. Oh, sorry, three more. There you go. Yeah, so right now, I believe that's called out as 15 feet to the second level.
Yeah, it says 115 feet.
That's right. I
But that's
apologize.
okay.
We use a 100-foot benchmark for our floor plates. So I don't know. We're just stupid architects. And we just do funny things like that. So 100 feet is the ground level. So 15 feet, yes, is the second floor. I mean, it would be, yeah. I mean, we tried to provide enough, I guess, latitude in this approach, but it would be nice to have some flexibility with that floor, especially because I think that is, for one, taller storefronts, taller ceilings, you gain more rents, you retain more tenants. It's been, the data supports that. And I think anybody knows when they go into large, you can go into like, even one like in Sun Valley or Ketchum, and you go into some of these older, old mining buildings, and they've got these 20-foot tall ceilings, whatever. They're gorgeous. And they're just, but in the natural light and everything else. So, right now we were being a little conservative, in all fairness.
Do you happen to know what the ceiling height is of the ground level retail space at the Village in Meridian?
Oh, Councilmember Nielsen, I suspect it's in the 18 or 20s probably.
What is
We do a lot of work out there, actually.
What is the ceiling height in the unit?
If not more, yeah. Sorry.
In the residential units, what's the anticipated ceiling height?
So what this is kind of accounting for is plus or minus 11-foot floor to floor heights. We talk in terms of, so basically they're 10-foot ceilings with some softening just because of mechanical, but what that does is they're more spacious. The 10-foot ceilings are easier to market. They're marketable.
Sure.
Yeah. But 11-foot, more or less from floor to floor.
So one foot of interstitial space between the units.
More or less, yeah. It's just we've been able to do the 11/7/8, framing, and
And is that sufficient for sound dampening, or do you get?
we're able to get upwards above 50 some odd, 58, whatever it is. Yeah, yeah. There's other methods with Gypcrete and other systems that do help with that. And then maybe the other thing to consider is the parapet heights. We're trying to, we're going to have some mechanical units, and we want to make sure that we're hiding them. I think that's for me personally, whether it's a requirement or not, I'm not sure the STAR has, but, not having any visual to the mechanical units, I think is very critical.
Sound wise, it's critical.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Any further questions of the applicant at this time?
Mayor, one more.
Councilman
You
Nielsen?
mentioned that you'd like to try to retain the existing trees, those giant London planes variety, at least those two out along State Street. Any reason why you would not?
Councilmember Nielsen, oh yeah, I think I think the applicant is absolutely open to it. In fact, we show them on the application. I think the challenge is the root system, maybe, I don't know what kind of, it's wreaking a little bit of havoc right now, I believe, on the existing sidewalk, and whether or not that comes into play. I mean, I think we're more than willing to work with the city on that as finding a solution that makes sense. But I mean, there's value. I mean, there's value to those trees if it's not wreaking havoc on other things. We just, I've been out there. It's been a while, I'll be honest with you, but I do recall there were some sidewalks are getting beat up over there.
Yeah, I think at the size those are, that's probably the limit of sidewalk interruption we might see out of those. And I agree. I think there's some pretty extreme, there's a lot of value in that, especially given that being a public area to immediately have that kind of shelter. And I would like to see those retained.
Councilmember Nielsen, I would agree. I mean, I think the approach to this project is to be authentic and try to retain. Those are important pieces to the application. I would agree. Where it's feasible.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Oh, here.
They're being really weird. They turn on automatically. All right, Mayor Chadwick. So this is probably more for city, you, regarding the payment or the parking agreement with the Merck, the Star Merck. So reading the letter, so I want to make sure I understand it correctly. It states that the agreement is between the city of Star and the Mercantile. And so the city is going to, once, like, we're going to designate that a public parking space. But then it talks about rent, payment, the exact terms, compensation for monthly rental amount. So has there been discussion?
That's a discussion that
have
we're
to
gonna,
pay.
no, we're gonna have to pay. That's why we do the 60,000 in lieu of. That's the
Okay.
parking in lieu of is for downtown parking areas like this. And so there will be a discussion with Jack, or not Jack, but Butch over there. I'm trying to find the letter on determining the amounts that we're going to be paying downtown.
Yep.
And then with our plan that we're doing for the downtown update of the revitalization plan, some of the stuff is going to be determined in that as well, where we're going to do that and try to enter into some of those agreements.
Okay. So the 60,000 that you're suggesting, where did you get that number?
It's in our city code that says 6,000 per unit.
Times the 10.
84B6, parking in lieu of payments, the fee shall be $6,000 per space or such sum as may be adopted by resolution of the city council. So we don't have a different sum, so 6,000 is the number.
Times the
Times the-
24.
Times the 10 units that they're shy.
10 shy with the
Only
parking
the parts that they're
reduction.
shy, yeah.
With that parking reduction.
Right.
Okay, got it. Okay, that helps. Okay, and then it also states that if the Star Mercantile sells, the owner sells that property, then the agreement is no longer. It doesn't transfer. So what do you see happening there?
I
So say
see-
they sell it in a year.
Okay, I see, well, if they sell in a year, then we're in trouble. But I see that we're working on a plan for all of our downtown parking, this is just going to be a part of it, where we're going to start working on finding areas, even across the street over here, that we're trying to secure for additional parking for downtown.
Makes sense. Okay. Yep. All right. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
I guess I'm going for this microphone because that one just died on me.
with,
Yes, sir.
with that parking, since we're on the parking side, does that current usage go away or does that turn into city?
No, the uses,
revenue?
no, the city state, that's their property. They can still lease it out for their little food truck that's over there.
And we pay for it in the meantime for the other 10 spaces? Is that-
Well, we're paying for a location for downtown parking that can be utilized by the public all day long, every day of the week. If we're worried about the taco truck is already there, established space. They're busy during certain hours. You're going to lose 10 spots during those certain hours, just like you would in any other downtown. If we have future commercial business building over there, that's still going to be the same thing. People can park anywhere. And I'm going to go back and address the parking next to the restaurant. You look at downtown Meridian, it's pretty successful in how they have established their restaurants. 830 Commons, I think is what it's called, is they have zero parking except for very little bit in the very back of it. Most of the parking is done on the side street and you walk half a block to it or a block. So I could see that it's not as much of a concern as where the location of the parking is. It's just providing the opportunity for people to get there. Right? So. Okay. All right. Any further questions of the applicant? No? All right. Hearing none. Thank you. Thank you. We are going to, you know what? I should have said everybody needs to print their name on these things because I can't. Is it Amy? Is there an Amy in here? What does that say? Can you tell?
Starts with H.
Yeah. What is it? Is that an Ann? We have an Ann. We have an Amy. Starts with an A, signed up to speak in favor. Okay, I'll take that back then. Oh, I got those. Those I can read right there. All right, we got Todd Collins. Is that one working? Please. And the applicant gets that too.
Good evening. My name is Todd Collins, 4718 North Echo Summit Way, Star, Idaho. Review of the application indicates the applicant is requesting 3 exceptions to the municipal code: building heights, sidewalks and parkways, and parking spaces. The number 1 parking exception under 84B3, required number of off-street parking spaces, indicates they need 54 residential and 52 commercial. Although the city council can approve a 50% reduction, which would bring that down to 26. Actual off-street spaces provided is 54 as the code requires, but commercial is only 8, which is 88% lower than the requirements under 84B3. Additional note, ACHD report indicates diagonal parking on the east side must be removed to allow for Main Street widening. Applicant has requested a shared use solution for 23 spots at Starmark, but the agreement is not compliant with the code. 84B4, standards for alternatives to on-site parking. For shared use, all parties involved with the shared use parking area shall submit a written agreement to the administrator. The shared use parking agreement may be terminated by the parties only if off-street parking is provided in conformance with this article and approved by the administrator prior to the termination. It is likely that Starmark will eventually want to sell or redevelop their property. The agreement they wrote allows them to cancel at any time. Number 2 exception, sidewalks and parkways and the alley. Unified Development Code 84A18 requires that 8 feet detached sidewalk with an 8-foot parkway planter strip be required along both sides of State Highway 44. Staff comments on page 22, as this development is in the urban core of the downtown area with the existing adjacent commercial building, the Starmark, located immediately adjacent to the attached sidewalk on Highway 44, staff recommends that the required 8-foot sidewalks be attached as proposed with no parkway. Because this project is up against an extremely busy highway, it would seem even more imperative to maintain the required setback. The 8-foot planter strip will provide additional safety for pedestrians and will allow the trees to develop to a fuller canopy, providing shade and screening of the building. ACHD notes that the alley needs to be extended 4 feet into the property to allow for a 20-foot wide alley as opposed to 16 as shown on their drawings. Number 3 exception is height of the building. Code provides for 35 feet. Council may allow up to 60. Combined with the other 2 exceptions, this proposal will make it difficult to maintain code standards. The exception will be the rule. Under staff generated conditions of approval on page 27, it does not include applicant must adhere to requirements set forth by ACHD.
Okay, time's up.
I'm done. Thank you.
You want to, any questions? So let me ask you a question. Are you for it or against the project?
Yeah, so
Because you signed up on the in favor and
right, because
testified was against.
as Council Member Wheelock said, he loves his project. He really likes it, but it's oversized for the lot.
So you're against it.
So I'm against the way it is proposed exactly tonight.
So I'm going to move you over to the against side on there. And I need to
Okay.
know, is Nancy against it? Because we have an order of operation. So I have the in favor
Well, I'm
first.
for it with exceptions, just like Mr. Wheelock probably is for it with exceptions.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Miss Nancy? I'm sorry? You pass, okay. Pass.
Mr. Mayor, should we make that more of a neutral testimony then? That way.
Yeah. Neutral.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right. Ron Ishii?
Okay, so I'm against.
Wait, state your name and address though for the record.
Yes, it's Ron Ishii. That last name is spelled Ishii. And Mayor and Council,
Address first.
11174 West Box Canyon Court in Star, Idaho.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
All right, Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate to share my thoughts about this development on this particular property. I would like to make sure that we understand that this development really is not in keeping with the community vision of a small town, family-friendly character. And that what we see here, and I'd like to make a couple of points here, this project is more like a stack and pack, a kind of a metropolitan look consisting of a 4-story, 46,800 square foot building with a 0 setback. 2, placing the adjacent building to the right of way along State Street does not leave any room in front of the building or landscape areas that will allow trees such as the existing mature sycamore tree that once dressed the front of Dr. Hall's house that helped beautify the downtown area. And Star residential areas are dominantly zoned single-family dwelling, but the proposed 30 residential units are, I feel, out of place, especially concerning this is a commercial business district, and the other aspect of that is they show parking right on the street there, and to me that would greatly impact the flow of traffic. And the flow of traffic right now is difficult as it is, and so to me it appears that the proposal is really based on trying to max everything out, or maybe over max what the really is. It just doesn't fit. And so anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Any question? Hang on one second. Any questions of Mr. Ron? No? Okay, thank you, sir. All right. I think it's Sarah on Meltwater. All right. I think I got, is your husband down below you?
Yes.
Okay, I got the spelling there. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for hosting us and letting us speak. I'm Sarah. I'm 7719 Meltwater, excuse me. You had mentioned, Councilman Wheelock, about the Eagle building similar to this. And if any of you have looked at that, that has really changed that landscape of what a cute little small town that is. That one is too close to the sidewalk. Space planners say you need at least 3 feet of egress per person. So if you're walking on an 11-foot sidewalk, you're barely going to get, maybe 2 people. Someone is walking opposing you, you're going to be dodging and weaving. It makes for uncomfortable walking on a sidewalk, not very pleasant for a nice community. It also doesn't really allow much for the trees as spoken earlier. So I see that as a problem with the aesthetics. Also, what is STAR's aesthetics? What is your plan? This does not fit in with what STAR looks like, what the purpose is. Maybe if you change the elevation to make it look more homey, to mix it in, or consider a different plan, that would be maybe something better. I agree that there needs to be some businesses to, help with the economy, but I don't think this is the plan for us or changing it. I like your idea of going down a level. But I just see too many problems. The other thing is parking. It is, and I don't know if that's been addressed, hard to follow. If the people who are living in the apartment, do they have guaranteed spots? Or am I coming home late and have to park at the Merc? Nobody wants to do that late at night. So that is something. Are people, guests coming in and gonna sneak in and take their parking spot? Is it gonna be permitted? Those are things that I don't think were clearly addressed sitting here. So right now, I'm just gonna say I'm against it. Thank you.
Sure. Any questions of Ms. Sarah? All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Jason Ray? Did I say that right? Harry, okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry. My name's Jason Airy. I live at 12086 West Wetland Park Drive here in Star. I'm against it just for the fact that the height of it is the main concern, I think, too. I mean, realistically, if it's 55 feet tall, you're talking about standard floors. That's a 5-story building, I mean, we're gonna have that smack in the middle of our town. And why are we gonna put an apartment complex right in our downtown area on those second and third floor, even though they might be nicer complex, but it's still apartments, down here. And I mean, the whole idea of keeping the small town flair of Star, Idaho. I know we're growing like crazy, but keeping that small town flair is why a lot of us are here. Let's not even get into the rumors of a Lowe's coming in. But, so all those things are why I'm against it. I mean, a lot of the other issues have been addressed, parking and whatnot. That's kind of about all I got.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Jason? Okay, thank you, sir. Looks like Ms. Kylie.
My name is Kylie Marlin. My address is 11051 West First Street at Star, Idaho. I'm on the north side of this building where it was to be proposed. I am against this building primarily due to all the parking spaces. Regardless of where everybody would park, the residential spots are claimed. There's not enough parking for anybody at the restaurants. Weekends, people come in for the retail or the restaurants. They no longer have enough parking. They're parking in front of my house. I can no longer have my family at my house parking in front of my house. The height would drop right, not behind my house, my neighbor's houses, but everybody above can look into our yard. I am against the current proposal for this building. I think it needs some changes in order for it to come in and appropriately be accepted into the neighborhood. That's it.
You did good. Any questions for Ms. Kylie? Okay, Councilwoman, you need the microphone, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony tonight. I know it's nerve-wracking. I appreciate it. So how many spots do you have in front of your home along the street?
In our parking area, we have 3 parking for us. We could fit 2 in front of our house and then a third one in front of our parking.
So is that like 3 on-street parking plus like 2 for?
They can get up to
driveway
3
type?
and then crossing over into it in 4. And our neighbor has a gate in front and people constantly park in front of their house, even though it's still their parking. they have a gate and they still park, people still park in front of it. So we already experienced parking issues from the church itself as well. So 2 areas of parking problems is problematic.
Sean, do you mind, do we have like an aerial, just so I can have a visual of it? Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and so your house is,
Are
say-
you right here?
Yes, that is my property.
all right.
Thank you. Yeah. So
And-
this is my property. That's our cars. This neighbor has a gate in front. They can fit 2 here, but people park consistently right in front of their driveway. We already have people parking all the way up through the entire parking lot for the church already.
Mhm. Do people park in the alley?
No, additionally, the alley only fits 1 car. There's no, like, we have a gate in the back, and if anybody's sitting behind our house, say loading for a restaurant or a retail store, we can't get access out of our backyard where we might have something stored additionally. So it's a 1-way alley right now.
Okay, and then your garbage, does that go out front?
It goes out the
or in the alley? Okay, in the front. All right. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Wheelock?
Just for reference, where the trash and recycling lane is on the main site, the backup area is directly at the hole that is access to their yard. So I think that's going to be an issue
Yes.
for them long-term when they dump that dumpster at 5 a.m. or whatever they were
Yep.
complaining about 2 or 3 meetings ago. Not you guys, but somebody else was complaining that the dumpster kept them up.
Okay, any further questions? Thank you. All right, Ms. Denise Van Dorn? We could put them on a lottery thing and just roll it and see who comes up.
Denise Van Dorn, 11105 West Frost. It is clear, oh, you know what? Hang on 1 second. I gotta put my glasses on. I forget that I can't see without them. Okay, it's clear that the lack of parking is of great
Hey,
concern.
Ms. Denise, speaking in the microphone.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
It's clear that the lack of parking is of great concern to this community, as is the height of the building. The applicant is essentially providing just 10 parking spaces for 10,000 square feet of commercial use. And just so we're clear, the 23 spaces that are being provided at the Merck, that still it doesn't add that much. And we need to remember that that is shared parking. It's not dedicated. So, and it's also temporary in nature based on the letter that was submitted. They can revoke it at any time. The applicant has also indicated a few street parking spaces, which only illustrates that street parking along Main and First are planned and most likely going to happen. I am very concerned about the safety aspect of all of these vehicles traveling and parking on unimproved, narrow roadways that have no sidewalks. There is already a speeding issue on those streets, and the increase will only exacerbate the problem. And what about the people that live there? At a recent council workshop, someone from the city staff commented that we may make people mad, pardon me, and we may lose friends, but we have to keep pushing forward with the plan regardless. And I'm paraphrasing, of course. That may be, but this was not a very palatable delivery for a lot of people. And I wonder if that would be the same attitude if that person lived on First Street. I don't believe that this is the sentiment of the city as a whole, but clearly was an unfortunate choice of words. As for the height, it must be really distressing imagining a 3-story building directly behind the residence on First Street. In reading through the application and staff report, there was much verbiage justifying the size of the building. and that the CB allows it, et cetera, et cetera. But that does not mean that it is appropriate for this location. I'm not necessarily against this project, but I do feel that this is a very aggressive rip off the Band-Aid approach. And I'm asking council to consider scaling this back. A 2-story building, while maintaining the current parking spaces, would provide more commercial parking and perhaps be a little less invasive for the folks on First Street. It would also reduce the amount of trips through the alleyway right behind these people's homes. And it would fulfill the CBD height requirement without approving a variance. And by the way, there hasn't been any discussion about ingress and egress, and I would really like to hear a little more about that, because it looks like it's only on Poplar, but maybe there's additional areas. In this packet, there is a section on findings. It says that council shall base its determination on the conditional use permit request upon the following.
Ms. Denise, how much more do you have? We're out of time.
This is really good.
Is it really? Yeah, sorry.
Fine, that's okay.
Any questions of Ms. Denise? Do you have it written? You have it written? Just submit it to staff up there so we have a copy of the whole thing.
Oh, no, I scribbled on it. I'll give you a better copy. But I'm sure somebody really wants to hear what I was going to say. Wasn't that the question?
I get that, but it's 3 minutes for everybody. We just got to follow the rule on there. But hang on, Ms. Denise, did you have a question, Jennifer? Okay. Nielsen, did you have a question? Because you were grabbing. Okay, thank you. I just want to make certain. You guys have questions? No? Yeah. All right. Miss Melissa Gallagher? She here? No? Okay. Hang on one sec here. Miss Teresa? Can you read her chicken scratch? Perfect. You can come read the rest of it.
Teresa Tinsley, 10459 West Achilia, Star, and excuse me, I've got a frog. Denise would like to say, there are 8 considerations and all are important. However, I believe that number 4, oh, thank you so much. Number 4 is particularly relevant to this request, that the intended use will not adversely affect other property in the vicinity. This is probably the most important consideration. Hopefully, the testimony tonight will clearly communicate the concern of residents in the vicinity. This proposal will most definitely adversely affect this neighborhood traffic, lack of adequate parking, and quality of life for residents on First Street. Please consider reducing this to a 2-story structure and maintain the current parking spaces that are intended for residential.
Okay. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. You got a minute and a half, basically. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll talk fast. In reading over some of the packet, I saw something interesting and I've never heard before. And you guys have talked about it tonight. It's the parking in lieu of payment. I did notice that the applicant would like a 38.5% reduction, and the staff believes it's justified. So who is that rule supposed to benefit?
Which rule, the
parking in lieu.
Are you talking the payment in lieu of?
Yeah.
So it's intended to benefit us as citizens to be able to purchase lots downtown for parking for multiple projects. That's what that's intended for. It was put in July of 22.
I understand that now. it doesn't benefit the citizens in Star. And in my opinion, other than the fact that you guys get $6,000 per parking space, it only benefits the developer. He doesn't have to reduce his building.
No, and this is some of the stuff that's gonna come up when we have that, where we got a consultant on board to update that downtown revitalization plan and look at the parking stuff. It's for a master parking plan for the city of Star for different areas. So we have centralized locations of parking. That's not necessarily good. They have just seas of asphalt everywhere either. And so that's what I'm just telling you what the intent is. That's what the intent is for
Okay.
on that.
But Mayor, you're going to get $60,000 and you're going to apply it to the Merck's parking lot. And next year, supposing Butch decides he's selling and after the $60,000 is up, it's taxpayer money that's going to pay for those parking spaces for somebody else's development.
So I'm gonna, you and I have great relationship, but I'm gonna talk about this a little bit. It's not taxpayer money. The taxpayer, all the property tax money that goes in for this stuff goes right into our police department in the city of Star. 100%. That doesn't even cover it all. We're covering it with these mitigation fees. All the money that would go into this would come out of the development community that's already paying permit fees and things like that here in the city of Star for that, right? And so that's what's going to fund that stuff. Is it a concern? Yeah, absolutely. But this is not the final document from the Curleys. It's just an initial thing that we got to get this discussion rolling so we can try to lock up that piece of property for the city of Star with our plan that we're working on here in the future. And to get him to the table was fantastic for this, in my opinion, because they haven't entertained that before. And now he's entertaining that. And we're also talking about another piece of his property on the south side of Highway 44 for downtown parking as well. That would benefit everybody that wants to participate in downtown activities, right? So, I mean, that's what we're trying to do. So.
And that's great. But and I don't begrudge anybody making money. I mean, everybody does. The thing is why is it that he's got 10,000 square feet of business and he only has 10 parking places?
Sure, it's a concern.
And if anybody has ever driven down Poplar, you cannot park on Poplar. I mean, you can barely get two cars.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it. It's a concern and it's been addressed up here talking about the parking as well. So, yeah.
Well, you guys have a chance to get this right. I certainly hope you don't throw us under the bus to achieve your vision for Star.
Well, this is not our vision of Star. There's a comprehensive plan that this all follows too, Ms. Teresa. I'm going to be honest with you. Here's the thing. We're all citizens of this community as well, and we're doing our best with the growth that has come on here in our community. Nowhere did we ever decide at any point that we wanted to open the floodgates for 5,000 people, or excuse me, 12,000 people to move here in 5 years. No one ever could think of that. That was not even a thought, right? We have a comprehensive plan. We are a city in this state that updates this plan more than anybody else because of the growth concerns that we've seen. And we've made these adjustments. We've had thousands of people make comments on these things. So it's not our plan. It's a community plan that we're trying to follow. And we're trying to update these things as we go. So we up here are doing the best we can with the rules that we have to follow and apply to situations like this. Right? We take public comment. We make adjustments all the time on projects, all the time. Right? So and hear me out. And you can everybody get mad at me if you want, but sometimes I take offense to some of the comments that get made like that for us to throw you under the bus. We're not trying to throw anybody under the bus. We're trying to follow the law and we're trying to make it work for everybody. Sometimes projects don't work and that'll get vetted out here by people up here on the bench. Right? And I think we do a pretty good job of that considering what we're dealing with in this society today. So I understand what you're saying. I truly do. I mean, everything you said is right on point, but for us up here, we are trying our best to make this stuff, work.
And let me just say that I think you all do a really good job. The problem I can see is that a developer is going to develop that property, and I am the first one to say hallelujah to that because it was a mess. And, but to allow him to make it that big with not enough parking spaces.
We haven't allowed
it's wrong.
anything. Let's just
I
make
know.
sure we understand that, right? No decisions have
That's
been
why
made.
I'm here.
Right, and we've heard that you have a parking issue with this one. So I think we're good
I
with
do.
that. Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
But I do want you guys to know that I think you're doing a good job.
Thank you. I know Teresa long enough that I know she will.
Mayor Chadwick.
Yes, sir. Councilman. Oh, Teresa, you might not be done yet.
No, she,
Oh, okay.
I just want to say that Teresa does a good job of always making sure that we know
She
exactly.
does forever.
Exactly what,
To be
well,
clear, I love Teresa. a
we all
lot.
loved you, Teresa.
So-
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just for the record, I think it needs to be understood that the Kirtleys are not going to be charging us $60,000 for that parking. That parking is going to be very inexpensive. We'll help maintain it, but it's not going to be.
And whatever comes in, we're working out
Fraction
the
of that.
details that comes back to the council to approve it anyway. Right, just so everybody's aware. All right. Mr. Art.
I'll make it real quick. My name is Art Sukup. I live at 12535 West Hidden Point Drive. All I have is a question for, I guess, the developers back here that didn't seem to get addressed. I'd like to know what is the size of these apartments. 'Cause when I looked at this, 10,000 square foot on the bottom, assuming that the second floor and the third floor is also 10 square feet. So if you do a simple divide of 20,000 square feet by 30 units, you get 666 square feet per apartment. I think that's a little too small. So could you tell me what is the size of?
He can tell you when he comes up for his rebuttal. He's not going to tell you right now. It's when he comes up for the rebuttal.
I thought they had it drawn out on this diagram.
Well, he's going to come up and, so just ask your questions. He'll write them down and then he'll come up. and
Size
tell
of the apartment units, all done.
Got it. Cool. Okay, on the sheets, that's all that signed up to speak. Just so everybody's aware, all the other ones will be part of the record. There's 5 people that signed up in favor that did not want to speak. There's 8 others that signed up on against that did not want to speak, and there's another 7 neutral that did not wish to speak, and those will all be part of the record. Okay? All right. Huh? What's your name? Huh? You didn't say yes on there or no? No, here, can I have it? I think you were on the very bottom, right? Didn't put his address or anything? Oh, it's a scratch. So we'll give you, Mr. Micah, you could come up here and speak.
Scratch.
It's chicken
Hanging
scratch.
Chad.
Schooling. How you guys doing this evening? Micah Kelly, 11063 West Frost, Star. Just from, being a resident and stuff, we're just looking at the whole development and stuff. I know it's pretty massive. And I look at like Eagle, what they have down there in the downtown. And it's almost like with how much stuff is happening in Frost in the last like 3 years I've seen, it's almost like it's really sporadic everywhere. There's no really like sense of like, where is Star? Because if you just drive through Star, boom, you're like right through it really quick. You don't really have like visually like what separates Star from like Eagle. Eagle's got this big development, which is back from the main road, which I think Star has an opportunity to put them on the map by putting a structure like this. I know it's big, it's large, it's hard to take in, but I think it's going to set Star apart from everybody else, and I think in a good way. I think it needs, I know parking is always an issue. It's always hard with these developments. And I know, because I know the builder somewhat well, and with this structure like this, the amount of money that it takes to build something like this, it has to make sense versus units and commercial space to even actually fund and afford to even do something like this, because it's such a large scale project. I just think for the vision of Star Downtown, because I see the Lowe's going in and everything that's going in Star, I think this makes sense to establish like the downtown of Star and kind of break up the sporadic, here's an auto shop here, a pizza place here, and this and that. It's like somewhere to walk and actually kind of hang out and be like part of the community. I think it's definitely a big step. It's probably a lot to take in, but I think the overall picture of it, I think aesthetically, I think it would make a lot of sense in Star, or like establishing what Star is going to be in the future, because also when the parade and stuff come through visually, the parade, like people could go on the rooftop deck, they could watch the parade and stuff. I think visually for like that, it would make a lot of sense, with all the stuff's going on. I think Star is going to grow regardless. I would like to see something like this to where it actually had a purpose and a sense of a downtown versus a low kind of sporadic kind of another few businesses over there. Doesn't really make sense for the area. That's my personal opinion, but thank you guys for.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Micah? All right, thank you. Thank you. All right. The applicant can come up and you got your 10-minute rebuttal.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, Walter Lindgren with Lindgren Labrie Architecture, 247 North Eagle Road in Eagle. Just want to kind of go down the list. I've been trying to take copious notes as best I can and to address some of the comments from the public. In no particular order, I just want to address the sidewalk along State Highway 44. This was part of the vision that I believe, and correct me if I'm misstating something, but I believe this was part of the process with the ACHD in the city, and that this was a configuration that they had come up with in terms of the design objective, and that was to provide, I'm going to screw up the travel lanes, but, and it's in our narrative, if you do have a chance to go back and look at it, we do talk about the section of the road that HHD and the group from the City of Star had kind of come to agreement on. And as part of that acknowledgement was the sidewalk area to be widened to 11 feet deep from the edge of the building along the State Street side. So that's where we took that dimension from. So I wanted to address both Ron and Sarah's comment on that. I think it was a great question. I just want to make sure that they understood where that come from. Secondly, to also address Sarah's comment about allocating residential parking. In a case like this, we would absolutely have assigned parking for those individual residences, so nobody would ever be without a stall that is allocated one, however many they are per unit. I believe we have 1.5 stalls per unit, and then per 1-bedroom unit, and then two stalls per 2-bedroom unit. So, but they would be striped and allocated. To address Denise's comment regarding egress and ingress, I think it was a great question. I think with all the other discussion, we didn't really talk about it. Really hard to say, where the vast majority of folks are coming through. I have to say probably from the State Street side, just given the population and how folks would enter this area. We have an alleyway, which is to our advantage, basically connecting both Main and Poplar. And so really the traffic is not being drawn off of State any deeper than that alleyway. Once they enter in off of either Main or Poplar off the State Street, they would either, on Poplar in that case, they would either enter into the driveway or into the alleyway. And so it'd be concentrated in that area and not cause, I guess, undue hardship as you go beyond. There was also discussion, I know that, I think it was Kylie, I think was her name, regarding the trash enclosure, and Councilmember Wheelock brought it up. We just felt like this was probably, trash is always a challenging, doesn't matter what the project is. It could be a single-story retail strip building. We got to have trash pick up somewhere. We felt like this was the best opportunity and providing a clear access for your trash to pick up and not to provide any a dangerous situation for your trash collectors. Going down my list. I can't even read my own notes. Oh, and then I believe Art had asked about the size of the square footage. It's a great question. They're roughly around 650, I believe. This is a unit size we've used. We actually did a project in Meridian very similar, or somewhat similar to this, and those are one-bedroom units. It's a very common plan layout. The floor plates themselves, you had mentioned 12. I'm not sure where that number came from, but I have the floor plates for the second and third level are 14,900. There's circulation obviously incorporated into that. So, but those units for at least the one bedrooms are 660, and they're very viable units. And I don't think that the applicant wouldn't want to put something out on the market that wouldn't be able to be leased and utilized correctly. So hopefully that answers that question. But I just, maybe just to close out, I wanted to thank the council and the mayor and frankly, all the folks from the city to come out and talk through this issue. It's a challenging project. We fully appreciate that. We don't have any misunderstanding about what's at stake here, but what I do want to kind of reinforce is the goal of this applicant to do something unique and authentic and something to create something that could propel and to further identify, the brand, if you will, or the sense of place of the city of Star, which I think is important, and believe this is the right site for it. And the effort that the applicant has put in thus far to take care of a lot of blight and other components that they've taken care of. We feel like they've I think everything that they've done up to this point has exhibited a desire to do good for the city, and I hope this project also reflects that. So with that, I will stand for questions from the council.
All right, further questions of the applicant? Councilman Wheelock?
Yeah, I've got a couple more, I guess, clarification questions. You talked about the egress being no farther than the alley going around. Is that right? So people would come in off of Poplar or Main Street. There's a whole section here that's going to end up coming through First Street or somewhere around. And then there's the additional parking that we may or may not be talking about with Kirtley's. I'm not sure how that works out. A discussion to be had still, and just the impacts that are happening there. I have a hard time believing that that it doesn't affect deeper into that area of our town, which I don't know how to address, honestly. And I get that the trash is going to have to be handled some way or another. Mitigating that trash being hauled out at all hours of the night or whenever that happens in the early morning is something I'd love to see worked on, honestly. Maybe some kind of a sound, something for the residents on the other side of that. The 20-foot alley that is supposed to be 20 foot, are the power poles on the house side or your side of that alley?
Councilmember Wheelock, they are on the north side. We have a survey. I think they more or less ride the north right-of-way line of the alley, I believe.
So will it end up being 20 feet from the backside of the pole to your project? Yes?
Councilmember Wheelock, I mean, more or less, I hate to, yes, more ballpark, yes, that's the goal. That's correct.
Is 16 currently shown?
Correct.
So you'll give them 4 more feet. Is that correct?
So Councilmember Wheelock, I think, and I know that Victor is here from the fire department. Like one of the things that when we do these developments off of alleyways, it's out of fairness, it's incumbent on both sides of that alley to provide, to get to that 20 feet. I think the goal for fire, they always want to have 20 feet. It's not always realistic, but where we can give them that. But yet, I think in this case, we're the first ones out of the chute, so to speak. There's a 2-foot section that we're allocating towards that. And then at some point, you know, if the north side does redevelop, they would be asked to provide the additional 2 feet to get to that 20 feet. And you know, and what happens to I guess it's all future. I don't know. But out of fairness, it makes sense if you can imagine, you know, just because you're first, should that property be required to provide the full 4 feet to that 20?
Understandable. Those poles going down that alley are also pretty oversized. They're a pretty significant line back there. What other options are there that have a lower impact that you would look at for possible lower commercial uses? Do you have anything that would be a backup to that?
Councilmember Wheelock, in terms of the use itself, or
So that you had lower parking needs, I guess.
right?
I mean, it all comes back to parking mostly.
Does. That's a great question. I kind of feel like when we're in this design exercise, we're balancing a lot. You know, we're trying to we acknowledge the footprint. We acknowledge what we're trying to. If in fact, you know, the property being what it is, you can see how we basically took it more or less 55 to 60% of the length of the property. Earlier iterations had it taken the whole way, and like, okay, that's a non-starter. So you kind of, in a way, with the design, you back into these things because parking is always does wag that tail, so to speak. The parking is always going to drive the conversation. In this case, we felt the compromise was to pull that building back and not have the full frontage along the State Street. And exactly, there you go. Thank you, Sean. And to provide that open space with the plaza out front. So is it a perfect solution? No, I get that. But what we're trying to balance is a project that can actually be constructed and be built, and that makes sense, and one that everybody would be proud of as well, and feel like it struck the right balance. The other thing I will say about some of these parking counts, and they do kind of, you know, we talk about 4 per thousand. You know, where does that come from, right? I mean, a lot of it, Sean would say, I know Sean would probably studies this way more than I do, but I think it's the Urban Land Institute that does kind of establish these counts, and but there are plenty of anecdotal and case studies that have shown in true practice those counts they're even off. They're high. They're a little, what's the right way to put it? They're more conservative, if you will. Where they've done other tests where you might have 4 per thousand being required by ULI that is applied to an office or retail. You know, they've done case studies in other urban areas where they've been more like 2, 2.5 based on the actual practice. And so it's a tough thing because we have these numbers that we have to rely upon. What else do we have?
Sure.
So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, no,
but it's just like we kind of hang our hat on them like they're gospel. But
you have to find somewhere in the balance.
I fully appreciate that.
Hard to find an apartment with, okay, so you have a 600-foot apartment. But 600 square foot apartment, a young couple moves in, they have 2 cars, they have 1.5 parking spots. It's tough to park a half a parking spot.
Right.
And I think that's the problem in coming home at night and having your half of the parking spot be
right
a long ways from your apartment. So that's the hard part of giving up or making a waiver for 10 spots when I feel like 1.5 has already given that half a spot away. We're already short. If a couple moves into any one of those apartments, they're already out.
Sure. And Councilman, I think those are 2 separate issues, frankly, because the residential parking is what the city has assigned. So I'm not making light of it. I'm just saying that when I think about
I'm good with that, but you built your number off of it, and I agree with
those are two, what I would suggest, I mean, the city has established those parking, for residential, which we are meeting. And so the commercial is what needs to be, maybe is more scrutinized.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I realize 1.5 gets weird. I don't know how ways to address that, but
Yeah.
it's pretty common. It's common.
Half flows into your commercial spots
Gotcha.
because they're not designated.
Right.
Right? You're like, oh no, these are for the residents. And the 0.5 is maybe for the residents. And Kylie ends up paying the price because everybody's parking in front of her house late at night. I don't know. I'm trying to, that's why if it were possible to come down, I love the project that way.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it looks good. That's my hang up. And I'm trying to figure out how to get my head wrapped around loving Holler, and I just can't get there yet.
Fair enough. Appreciate that.
Okay, any further questions of the applicant? Oh, sorry.
I'll just kind of go along that same line. So I believe, if you weren't asking for that 50% reduction for the commercial, so then our code would require 52 parking spaces with this type of use. Is that correct? I think, like on that one slide, it says 15 for the restaurant and 11 spots for the office and retail. So that's with the 50% reduction. I'm not great at math, so I think that is 26 times 2, 56 spots. And so, if that's correct, somebody, 52. All right, thank you. So 52 spots. And, I like the idea of this project, but I agree. I think that, we, like with the parking, I think that there probably is some things that we can do to help manage it, and that maybe that 52 isn't what we need. But I feel like 10 is just not enough. And so I am hung up on that too. Maybe if there's a way, like if we can, that parking in lieu, payment in lieu, if okay, maybe you're paying for the 52 minus the 10, so 42 spots, rather than the however other many there were that we're asking for. So just an idea. I guess I just want to put that out there. Maybe leave it at that. See if you have anything, I don't know, if you can add to that or.
No, members, council members, Sorensen, I get the sentiment, and I appreciate your comments, and I'm not sure I have anything to add, but thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Nielsen? Councilman Hershey, any comments or anything to them? Because this is our chance.
Mayor, did you want to go over in detail your
I think we
uses, or do you want to just stick with what in the staff report?
Well, that's what I said. I said if we're good with what's in the staff report, we can go with that, but I just want to make sure that everything's out there.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Wheelock?
so I get that we're here talking about this, and we've all got parking challenges, and a lot of stuff's been addressed. We talked about doing a study of the downtown core over the last meeting we were here 2 weeks ago, and we approved a budget to have that studied.
Mhm.
Is this something that if we tabled until that was done would be a thing?
Well,
Is that-
it's up to the,
Where do we bring that into this conversation?
We have not approved a budget. We haven't even.
well,
to the-
you haven't approved it yet because we're waiting for the budget to come. We're getting a price. So you can approve the budget. You
We've
approve
approved the conversation.
the conversation, right? So we're still waiting on the budget.
Connection.
But that's a good question to the applicant is what were we told?
December,
December.
the earliest.
Timeframe is when that is supposed to be done. So, it's a fair question to ask, I guess, but is there any concerns with that, Chris?
Mayor, I think the challenge is, I mean, cities typically can't just table something indefinitely. I think an applicant, I mean, if you know you've got specific information coming, obviously we table applicants with, or applications with some regularity when we need some specific information brought back. It's a little bit of a challenge just to tell an applicant, we're going to table it until we don't know when. And then we'll make you come back and have another public hearing based on, some information that I think an applicant has generally a right to get an answer on their application. And so I think if you had a date certain, if you knew when that study was going to be completed and brought back, there's a conversation you're going to have. It's a little more of a challenge to just say, we're just going to table you until we get around to it, where you don't have a specific plan.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also add that I don't know if this study is going to solve the parking issue immediately. I mean, that this study is going to not only look at parking, it's going to look at the walkability, mobility, streetscapes, uses, heights. I mean, it's gonna take in a lot of things. It's gonna try to give us a vision for the rest of our downtown development. What you have before you is an application that is designed based on what you currently have in your revitalization plan, your comprehensive plan, and your zoning ordinance. So I don't think that waiting a year, if it's just a parking issue, I don't think a year is going to solve that problem.
With all due respect, you say that, but it's got with the parking waiver and the height waiver. So we've got it possible, but we all have to approve it every time it gets above our parking or it gets above our height. So it's not as easy fit into our current plan as that sounds.
Hey, Chris, I think you wanted to.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd also just remind the council that when an application is submitted, they're entitled to have their application reviewed according to the laws and plans that are in effect at that date. And so that's the other challenge with, waiting for a study, especially a comprehensive one as Sean's described, because if that's going to turn into revised ordinances, revised plans, additional plans, none of those would technically apply to this application because today's ordinances are the ones that they get to use. And so it could guide the council. This is a conditional use permit, so you've got more flexibility. And it could guide that conversation, but we can't really wait if we're thinking we're changing, ordinances and plans for the central business district and just put this on hold and say, we're going to make those changes and then come back and apply those to you down the road. But again, conditional uses, there's more discretion. It's much more of a conversation. Applicant's not going to like hearing this, but if the council doesn't like what they hear, I mean, there's always, you can always deny it and say, wait till our plan comes back and then resubmit. But I think the applicant would rather probably table it than deny it. But, but it's difficult to just, again, put things off for months and then try to apply new standards to an application that's might even be a year old by the time you get to it.
Okay. Any follow-up questions with the applicant?
Hard answer because there's so much I like about it, but there's so much I have challenges with.
Okay. Fair enough. Councilman Nielsen or anybody? Quick questions of the applicant?
Not at this time.
Well, this is it. There is no more time. Quite yet.
Then we're going to close it.
Sorry, I misspoke.
Okay.
No, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor.
Okay, hearing none. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir.
It's 9:33 and the public hearing portion is closed. And I've been requested to take a facilities break before we come back up here and do deliberations. So 9:45, we're going to start up right at 9:45 on that, okay? It's 9:45. We're going to call this Star City Council meeting back to order. If we get everybody to just take their seats, please. And we're going to move on to council deliberations at this point. Somebody's got to start us off.
Mr. Mayor, I'll start us off.
Councilman Hershey.
I put my notes away, but I don't need them. Well, I think the obvious main problem is the parking. And long story short, where Star is with parking, where this is with parking are not on the same page. That agreement with the Merck is not even an agreement. It's just a stipulation of an agreement. It has a cancellation at any time if they sell the Merck or if they kind of cancel for any reason. So that is not adequate. That's not even, in my opinion, at this time, considerable. The parking on the street it's not there. It's absolutely not there. And I honestly do not want to deny this because I see some very good merits in this development. I hear all the time, well, from the people that don't hate me, but I hear all the time from the people that will talk to me that I like seeing small business in Star. That's what this brings. That's absolutely what this brings. And the fact you can have a residence above it, that has worked in every city I've ever seen it. And I used to travel all over this country. So I am not going to make any motions to deny this. However, we have to table it because that parking is just, it's just not there.
Okay.
Now, I don't know when we can table it to, but I'm going to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we table this application.
Do you want to let everybody else speak or are you just going to go to the motion?
No, you all spoke. I was listening.
Huh?
Go ahead. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, so we have a
Okay,
motion.
I won't make a motion then, but if someone,
You withdrawing your motion?
no, if they want to second it, they can. If they don't, they can
Okay,
just
so
talk.
we have a motion on the, but you got to have a date certain that you got to table it to.
That's in,
And
it would have to be at least 2 months. I mean, seriously.
But, and if you're going to table it, what direction are you giving the applicant at that point?
The direction I'm giving the applicant is make the parking feasible, which means what I like Mr. Councilman Wheelock said, you're going to have to reduce something. I don't see any other way. Something has to be reduced. And that's what it has to be. I can't dictate how many residents or how many businesses, but it has to have businesses in it because it's central business district. So those have to stay. So how many residences, that's up to you. What can be penciled? I know that that's a critical factor is making the profitability on this or everybody loses. So I don't know how much time you need. I'm going to guess at least 2 months. Maybe 1, but I think 2 is a safer bet.
So June 17th. Let him look at his calendar here real quick on that,
Yeah, I have no idea.
just so we can get your motion.
And also, Mr. Mayor, just so you know, I have no objection to these. And in fact, the areas where we don't know what exactly it means, like the childcare, that's what the conditional use is for. So they can tell us if they want it.
Okay. So hang on a second. I want to finish with this motion, but I need a date in June. That's 2 months from now.
Is it really?
Is it? Yes. You believe it's 2 months already? No.
Hmm.
So either the first or third Tuesday in June.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my motion's April Fools. No. So
It's what?
wow.
So July 1st then? It's not too close to July 4th. You don't. Okay, July 15th.
It's going to be hot that day.
Okay, so then make your motion, David, with July 15th.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I propose that we table this application until the 15th of July to have consideration taken for parking by whichever means necessary. Recommendation from myself, and I believe at least one other council person is it's going to have to come somewhere from the density overall of this, either residential or commercial.
Okay, we have a motion. Anybody want to second that motion?
If I'd love a clarification. If, and if the, if you take off 15 apartments, if you will, that's 1.5 per apartment, it's 22.5 spots. That makes the parking work, from what I can tell. If you leave the parking spaces, it lets all the other answers be answered correctly. So I don't know if that means I'm seconding it.
Well, you gotta tell me you're seconding it.
I would second it with that 15 apartments in floor A or B. So 15 apartments.
Making a motion to amend it, kind of?
Are you asking, okay, so let me just real quick. I guess they hear what you're saying. They should just go and investigate it, see if it's even viable for them to do that. Come back, it's tabled, then there will be information presented from them. The public will get to speak against that again. Then we'll close the hearing at that time again and go to deliberations. And so based on the information that you provided, then I think that would work, right?
Yeah, Mayor, I think the way Councilman Hershey phrased the motion is just direction back to the applicant to come back and
Right.
solve the problem. It sounds like the way Councilman Wheelock's proposing is almost like this is how you have to solve the problem. And so you can do it either way. But I think if you're expecting the applicant to kind of come up with their own solution, then you can leave the motion a little more vague. If there's only one solution you're looking for, then the way Councilmember Wheelock has phrased it would be the way to go.
Are you willing to allow the applicant to figure out the solution to the parking?
I don't know. Yeah, I've been accused of only feeling like I was right. So it would solve the height issue for neighbors as well as the parking. So I would lean to only want that way.
Okay,
Truthfully.
so are you going to second what he has or not? Or is David willing to amend your motion to include what he said?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen.
So I'd like to, I guess, ask if, I'm not against tabling. Ask that maybe we wait on a motion to table and have a little more discussion first, if that would be all right.
Well, he has to withdraw his motion.
I understand. That's what I'm asking.
Are you withdrawing your I'm going to just make sure it's all clear, right? So you're withdrawing your motion. Okay, so let's go to the discussion.
Okay. Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen.
So a couple of things really stand out to me. And, you know, I've been on the council for, well, several of us have been here a long time. We were part of these plans, you know, including the central business district design and overall plan, several comprehensive plan reviews, all those things that kind of come into play as it pertains to this application. And Sean, or somebody, can somebody expand what's on the screen?
Yeah, hang on.
Ryan, what I'm looking for is the upper right corner, just to be a little bit bigger. The asterisk portion, not the drawing. Scroll over to the left so we can see the text. Yeah, make that just a little bit bigger there as well. You're doing good. Yeah, so
Hey, Art, I really, no more in the audience, please, okay?
So I want to draw attention to the 3 asterisk item there. And I'm just going to read through it, even though y'all can read it. Within the CBD zoning district, minimum required parking may be reduced by council for up to 50% of all non-residential uses. Adjacent on-street parking may also be included in the minimum parking requirement. Council may also require a parking in lieu of payment. I think it should be a payment in lieu of parking for a portion of the reduced parking. per City of Star Municipal Code. Bicycle, we don't need to read that part. The reason I want to draw that attention to that is because as we put together the plan for the Central Business District, it was painfully evident at that time that any project that comes to start in this part of our town and that attempts to meet the design and the use requirements of the Central Business District is immediately going to face some really severe limitations. And we needed to give the council the ability to let us start somewhere. One of the things that comes to my mind as I look at this and I think of other areas in the town, anything that comes to us to develop according to the guidelines, standards, and design elements that we have laid out in our CBD plan is going to face the exact same challenges that we're all here talking about tonight, and that we all see and agree with, by the way. Parking is absolutely a challenge. Height against existing, uses is a challenge. And so we've got this decision before us of, we have a plan. We knew the plan was going to be difficult. We've tried to bake into the ability of the council to handle some of these scenarios. And really what it comes down to for me is, as I look at this, there's not enough parking, obviously for all of these uses. The quasi, I'll call it a quasi agreement with the MERC right now, maybe solves some of that on a temporary basis. But the City of Star has to make some choices and has to do some things to make sure that our downtown can be developed. And that the CBD, the vision that we have for the CBD, and it's not just the people up here. I mean, we had a full 10% of our town participate in the comprehensive planning process. And I'm not sure what the percentage is, but there was a lot of people that came out and participated in the CBD process as well. So this is exactly what we have envisioned would be built in our downtown corridor. So how do we make it happen? How do we start somewhere? And there's not a chance that somebody's going to come in and build parking before there's a need for parking. And you may be able to argue now, and maybe, we've got funds, Mayor, but maybe we can find a lot and we can buy it. And that would take some of the ambiguity out of it. But we have to go at risk at some point, or we need to abandon our plan. Because again, any project that starts is going to come up against these same things. And so I'd be interested to hear other thoughts from the council and thoughts on how we might address it. And maybe that works into, that we table it for a period of time and we talk about some of those things as it relates to this particular project. But as I look at this, what I see is this is exactly what we envisioned, and it's a good start.
All right. Further comments on that? Or Hershey?
Well, that's why I did not want to deny.
Yeah.
And I still don't.
So just so you know, June 17th is the date that we can do it on, actually, not July 1st or whatever day that was.
Yeah. And I understand the risk. I understand going at risk. All things have risk. But right now, I can't, in my mind, mitigate what is a very likely perceived risk in this development. And it's not the design. It really is what we are looking for. It really, really is. And you're right. First person's going to get beat up the hardest. So thank you for that. And just for the record, I don't mind beating you up a little bit, but it's not personal. Really isn't. I'm just trying to get it right. And this will pay off, but there's just too many ifs that I've heard. Too many plans that aren't started yet that I've heard. Too many unknowns. Everything has a risk, but we have to have some mitigation for that risk. And that risk right now is the parking, which also could be addressed by some of the height concerns, which I believe that is more mitigatable than the parking. That's where I am completely stuck, is the parking. And I can't say I'm tabling you because I'm completely stuck and I don't have any ideas. I'm hoping that you all can do some tweaks and we could have staff talk with you. I mean, it's obvious. It was present in every public input given. No one said, I think parking's fine. No, nobody said that. And it's because it's the obvious problem that we need to get through. But I don't know how to do that. And if I don't know how to do that, and I haven't heard any solution yet for it, I can only suggest some kind of tabling to a date certain and whatever mitigations we can do between then and now to get to a comfortable enough level of risk. Then I think this thing can move forward, but it's just not, I can't come to it tonight. I don't think anyone can come to it tonight.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
just follow-up question for you, Councilman Hershey. Your thoughts on the payment in lieu of parking as a mitigation?
I don't even understand why we have that. I mean, I know it pays for parking spaces, but it's not, what I was thinking, what does that go towards? Continuing to let the MERC have
No.
payment?
No.
Or is it going to go towards parking structures, or what's it going to go?
It's intended for us to do exactly what he says, to buy the properties and build the parking structures or parking lots.
Right.
If it's
How much do
leasing
those
parking
cost?
lots, if it's leasing parking lots, it's leasing parking lots. It gives us a tool to utilize from the development community to help us with our downtown parking challenges that we have.
And I have no problem if that's what you want to collect. I mean, I've never had a problem collecting things from a vendor because, long story short, it helps growth mitigate growth. But I don't think it's enough to say that's enough for this.
So, okay. So my thing is, if we're going to table this, you table it to allow the applicant to get creative and not dictate what they're going to do on this. Get creative, understanding what you heard from the public, what we heard from the council, all that kind of stuff. And they always have that option to come back and say no, and then you can make your decision based off of that. In reality, right? Everybody has a little different take on this. I mean, for real, you know, on where they're at. And I think it's fair, in my opinion, to let the applicant go decide what direction they want to go before an ultimate decision is being made.
That's what I was trying to do, is keep it open like that. But
Right, and then the public will have an opportunity to come back and discuss the changes that they have made if they choose to make changes.
Right, we need the Goldilocks pair. Because mine was too loose, his was too tight, so somebody.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
So I guess, you know, one of the reasons that I was, if the motion would have gotten a second, I probably would have said no, but the reason for it is, because in your motion, it was specific towards the density. And, I'm not sure if, you know, like I'd like to keep that open. So, I think, you know, I would be okay tabling it, and telling, you know, the developer, you know, get creative, offer some money, more money, buy a portion of a lot. You know, maybe we do something like we do with the impact fees, you know, and it's, I don't know, 1,500 a stall, you know, that it goes towards a specific a fund. If we can do that, I don't know. But just being creative. I appreciate Councilman Nielsen's all of his comments. I think that the project overall, you know, like it does fit our comprehensive plan. And, you know, we have to figure out this parking issue. Safety is a big part of mine, and sidewalks. You know, there's not a safe, I don't know if there's sidewalks to the north. You know, how are people going to walk safely to this site coming from the north? I mean, so, but those are, I don't know, we have to start somewhere. I think it's really important that, we have to start somewhere. And I think this it's a nice project and it fits. And so if we can figure out the parking, it'd
Mr.
be
Mayor.
great.
Councilman, who are you? Wheelock?
Still
It's like my
Wheelock.
children. I go through all of them first.
I have a hard time saying that it fits the comprehensive plan when you're making a waiver both in height and parking. It has the ability to fit in it, but it doesn't fit the comprehensive plan according to what it says currently. You're asking for a waiver in two different directions, and it's not density as much for me. But you've got to fit it inside. Because you can't buy the parking spots and have it not affect all of the Old Town Star. Money's not going to fix that, in my opinion.
Well, and and let's be clear, it's not just comprehensive plan,
Yeah,
it's code
yeah,
also.
It is
right?
a code.
And the code allows those options
It
as
says
part of this.
it says you may,
Right.
but it doesn't, it's not a given.
No, it's not a given, but
That's
it's
what
an
I'm-
option.
Everybody keeps saying it's like it's a thing. It's can be asked for. That doesn't have to be approved.
Right, it's an option. Right. All right. Any further deliberation, motions?
One more thing. I think we should include in the motion about the uses that I would like to see, we need to identify them, I think.
Okay.
More, yeah. So include that in the tabling.
So beyond what's in the staff report,
Beyond, yes.
can we talk about
Yeah,
that then?
sure. Yeah, so if we look at the staff report,
You pulled the staff report with the uses that everybody's proposing.
Mayor Chadwick, while they're pulling that up, may I take a few minutes?
Yeah.
So just,
Absolutely.
so I want to provide this by way of information to the applicant, just as a summary and to get in the record, summary of potential conditions of approval that has been discussed all the way through. These are my notes. A covenant that balconies are not used for storage. I wrote down the potential, an idea like a bay window instead of balconies for units that are facing the alley, those four. Limit restaurant square footage to 4,500 square feet max. That existing legacy trees, the 3 identified on the map, will remain. And I added in here, a height allowance to provide for 18-foot ground level ceiling height.
There's also mitigation fees, police and fire.
Is that not the standard part of our
No,
development?
it's not in this. It wasn't written in this though. But I want to make sure it's clear and it's a part of the development agreement. If it gets approved.
Just for clarification, it's not a development agreement. This is just a conditional use permit.
Want them in the conditions.
So, all right, police and fire mitigation fees. And then what I would be looking for out of a tabling, I'm not making a motion because I want to discuss what Councilwoman Selmanson has before we do that, but I would be looking for the applicant to work with city staff to come up with a non-ambiguous plan.
Hope you're losing it.
These things turn on and off all by themselves. Something that we can look at and plan against and give us a target to work toward. So.
Councilwoman?
Can I just add to that also, to work with the city on, public signage, in their plaza? And I just don't see it. I'm probably missing it, but I want to make sure it gets in there. So the 10-foot sidewalk on Highway 44 at a minimum.
Well, but that would be for a motion, unless you're going to make, right. I guess it
Right, I'm
depends on your
just
motion.
putting
Okay, all right.
in for the record, right? And
We'll want a record of this when we
Yeah.
come back in however long it is.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody want to make a motion?
Oh, no, we're going to talk about the uses.
Oh, you're going to talk about the uses, okay. Discuss the uses.
All right, so let's see, in the staff report, let's see, I believe it's on page 4. Is that the one that we're looking at? Okay, so page 9. So on, let's see. No, those are parking. On page, that's parking. So on page 4 are the uses, whether they're permitted. And it's also staff's recommendations. So for example, he has artist studio as permitted. In here, that's the same. Let's see. Bakery, permitted.
Sean, are you able to,
Sorry, speak up.
to get us to the uses on screen?
Staff report? It's not what I have up there.
You have page
No, that-
9.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
All right, so artist studio, I think that would be agreed upon. All right, agree. Bakery / retailer or manufacturing, permitted, and I'd agree with that. Unless anybody else wants to chime in. Bar / tavern, permitted. Staff recommending making that conditional use. That's a good idea. All right, barber shop, and that is permitted, sounds good. Brewery, distillery, so then adding in no bed and breakfast.
So let me ask a question real quick.
Yeah,
If we were to just come back with what the staff is recommending and just utilize these only, is what you're saying, right?
okay.
Everything else would be non-permitted.
Yes.
Take the staff recommendations on these and everything else is non.
Everything else is non. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we could do that and then, but still have the option to discuss it when we come back, right?
Right.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
So only other one, there were some questions about, like laundromat, consider prohibiting or making conditional use. Conditional use.
I think you do conditional and then you do on the health and fitness as prohibit because of parking.
And then health and fitness club due to parking. Well, this one actually
Be
is
a
less
no.
parking than retail. But so I think I'd be fine with conditional. I don't think we should make it no. Have a little health club in there. I need to get healthy. Let's see what else.
And veterinarian as a prohibited.
Yeah, and then there's pawn shop. Consider prohibiting or making conditional. I would lean to prohibiting.
Okay. Anything else?
Let's see, there's a question about wholesale sales.
Well, it's not on this list.
I know, so it's listed as conditional though.
Well, but what we're saying is just the stuff that's on this list, everything
Are gonna
else would be
allowed.
no.
Everything is a no.
Right.
So anything, okay.
So on this list, why would we consider prohibiting a veterinarian office?
John?
Or leaving that as conditional. Yeah, I see.
Which is a recommendation of staff.
Based on,
Well, I
maybe
think it's the
people
type of use right there.
by food.
I mean, it's up to, it's up to you. If you want to do it as conditional, doesn't mean it gets approved, but
Yeah. So I just wondered if, I mean, what,
Is there any reason?
based on what reasoning? I mean, if it's conditional already, why would we consider prohibiting?
I don't think I necessarily want a veterinarian's office next door to a restaurant. It's not, it's, I'm just gonna, you asked the question, that's just my answer. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it.
Potential cross contamination.
Yes, potential. So,
And then maybe a clarification of a brew pub / wine tasting, and then the other item of bar / tavern. So maybe just clearly identify is one no food, one with food, or whatever that is.
They all seem like they're without food. So I have a question on that too. What's the difference? Although again, if we're just going based on this, it's consider making it conditional use. Whereas I think the mayor was saying to prohibit one, but allow the others.
we can discuss that more in the future.
Yeah, he was saying not allowed.
No, I was saying not allowed.
You're discussing things that are all to be discussed.
Yep. Okay. Any more discussion? Ms. Jennifer? Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
council, motion? Somebody make that motion then, if they want to table it.
All right, I'll try.
Okay,
I make a motion that we table this application to the 17th of June. With all the stipulations as noted in the listing of Councilman Nielsen and the staff report showing the permitted and conditional uses as determined, plus there will be some conversation on that. Also to remind you that there will be police and fire mitigation fees that have not been included. And maybe even ITD, is that in there, the proportion share?
portion share is in there.
Okay, that one was in there. And I think that kind of captures it. They know the rest. I mean,
Yeah.
Be
Any more,
creative.
Sean? No? Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second by Councilman Nielsen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Nay.
Solomon,
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries 3-1. We will hear this again on June 17th. It is 10:18, that we're at the end of our agenda. We're adjourned.